Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
Welcome in. How are we doing here on a Monday? We are rolling along. Yes, we are. Lots to get to on today's show. Obviously, the Badgers going to the tournament, as we all figured that they might be and expected them to be, I guess, at this point. And they get a team that nobody knows anything about. High Point. High Point is located in North Carolina, and we happen to find a guy that knows all about High Point. His TV station is located right there. Kevin Connolly, Fox 8 WGHP, will join us coming up at 2:40 to give us some insight on High Point and what the Badgers can expect to deal with there. John Steppe, Badgers beat writer from Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, he'll join us at 3 o'clock to get the Badgers perspective on all of this. That'll mean that we're moving, let's talk about the crew, to 3:20. And I don't know if you heard, but Kyle Schwarber had some praise for a specific Brewers player over the weekend. We'll get to that. Plus, Charlie's Sounds of the Day, Green and Gold update. We'll talk about the World Baseball Classic coming up at 4:20 as well, and the no call on the last pitch that ended up being a strike, even though it probably should have been a ball. We'll talk about that at 4:20. I think a lot of people are blowing this way out of proportion. And the things we missed on today's show comes up at 4:40. So the Badgers land a 5 seed, and they face High Point in the first round. And if they win that one, providing John Calipari in Arkansas doesn't get upset, it's going to be Arkansas. And there is Acuff there in round number 2. Acuff, of course, is a guy that I really, really like, as you all really, really know. And I think it'll be a really good matchup if they get to Arkansas. Both have really good backcourts. The key is going to be, as I've stated before, and we'll state again, folks, they have to have Nolan Winter. I mean, the fact that they competed with Michigan over the weekend, thanks to Austin Rapp, the fact that they competed with Michigan over the weekend without Nolan Winter playing, that's something. Like, there is something there to be said about that. From the aspect of, without your best big, you were able to keep that a close game and lose at the buzzer. You had every chance to win that game. And when I see the 1 seed is Michigan, there's no way. I mean, I haven't filled out my bracket yet, but there's just no way. I mean, Wisconsin beat them once. They had every opportunity to beat them a second time. If Nolan Winter plays in that game, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, yeah, they win, because maybe Austin Rapp doesn't get a chance to shoot 6 threes in that game and mix 6 threes and make 6 threes. Maybe that doesn't occur. But I will say this. When Austin Rapp got going, something he hasn't done in a minute now, that changes how the Badgers can play. Why? Because you're taking a big away from the hoop, and that other big defensively now is not in a position necessarily to rebound like he would be if Austin Rapp was under the basket.
Blackwell looking for a Rapp. He will fire. Oh, he's not human.
He is not. That'll take you out of a switching defense. You got to cover number 22. This has been a rapper's delight.
A rapper's delight. Highlight courtesy of CBS. I love Rafferty. So that was what it sounded like. Now, again, when we start talking about High Point and dealing with them, they shoot threes. And we're trying to get Andy Kilbride on. I think we might be able to get him on tomorrow. He's in the air today, so he couldn't join us. But you go back to like those Dick Bennett teams back in the day. What were they doing? They were taking the air out of the ball. And High Point's not a slow-paced team. Like, they're not one of those, more slower-paced teams in the NCAA tournament. But that team back then was what? Really good defense and hit your threes. They weren't the most athletic team or anything like that, but their three-point shooting allowed them to get on a run to a Final Four. They beat an Arizona team that was stacked with NBA talent because they wanted to get up and run up and down the court, and Wisconsin just took the air out of it. Now, this Badgers team, as we currently sit, I don't feel like that's what they can do. I don't feel like this Badgers team can necessarily take the air out of the ball and play some outstandingly great defense and win a game necessarily that way. This Badgers team needs both its guards to be playing at a high level and needs Nolan Winter and or Austin Rapp to get into double figures while both rebounding the ball at a high efficiency rate. If they do that, then yes, I think they can get on a run in the NCAA tournament. If one of those components does not come up in a certain game, they could go home as quickly as they got there. That's a scary thing. But I think a lot of college basketball teams right now are probably have similar things being said about them. If there's sports talk, talking about the Arkansas Razorbacks, it's probably similar things, right? Acuff can't have a bad shooting night. If he doesn't shoot well, we're screwed. It's over. Time for Arkansas to go home. So, I get it. Everybody's got their thing, as does Wisconsin. Asking you, do you like the Badgers draw? Essentially, it's High Point, then Arkansas, and then potentially Arizona. Now, again, we're assuming there are no upsets. So those are the first three teams. To get to the Sweet 16, which has not been common for Greg Gard, you have to get through the first two, High Point and then potentially Arkansas and John Calipari. Nicolay Law Talk, text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. On the socials at WI Sports Radio, streaming live on X and on YouTube as well. Come hang out with Charlie Usen, producing the show, and myself, Steve Sparky Pfeiffer, as we broadcast live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. We'll learn more about High Point with Kevin Connolly, Fox 8, down near High Point, sports anchor down there. He'll join us coming up at 2:40. Charlie Usen, do you like the draw?
I do. I think a lot of people are so worried about this 5-12 type of just matchup in general, no matter whose team it is. If it's your favorite team in that 5 spot, I think you get worried that could be the one big upset that you see in this first round every single year. At the same time, Nick Boyd and John Blackwell have just looked out of this world, like two of the best players in college basketball. And it has led to this team playing just with an overall energy from the bench all the way to that starting lineup. And I'm a huge fan of that. I do get a little worried that they had those two blowout games for those two guys versus Washington versus Illinois. And then you have the whole tournament ahead of you. That scares me a little bit that one of those guys is going to slow down at some point. But the fact that you haven't had Nolan Winter in this lineup, that brings that excitement a little bit back because he should be juiced and ready to go. If Austin Rapp's ready to go, if Braden Carrington's ready to go, you have a lot of players on this team that, yes, it relies on those first two guards in Blackwell and Boyd, but you can go to the bench and you can go to some of these other positions and find some production there. It feels like this team is just deep when it comes to the offense. The real question is like you were saying, how can you slow down an offense like High Point University?
That's absolutely right. And when you look at the numbers on High Point, the Badgers' adjusted tempo, as measured by KenPom.com, currently ranks 104th in the NCAA in the top third of the Big Ten. Okay. Top third's pretty good. However, High Point, their adjusted tempo is 49th in the country, and their average offensive possession length is 24th in the country. They're playing twice as fast as Wisconsin is at this point.
That's insane. And that's how these teams win those basketball games, though. They're never, like, none of these teams are never defensive lineups. When you watch some of the teams like Jack Golke from Oakland a few years ago, it's because they were just going down court, shooting threes over and over again. Loyola Chicago was the same way a while ago. You have a lot of these smaller universities that find ways to win basketball games by just out shooting their opponents on a consistent basis. And Wisconsin has almost adopted that kind of small university style of play into this lineup with the way that they've been playing basketball. I think that matches up well against these other high-paced universities. Again, I think if Wisconsin can find a way to slow them down a little bit with their defense, they have this game. You just have to worry about if that happens to you later on in the tournament then too.
The other thing too is, and again, they're saying he's going to play in this game against High Point, but their two best players are 5'10" and 6'6", right? So they don't have like two twin towers, and that's where they dominate is the paint. If that was the situation with High Point, then I'd be a little bit more concerned about the rebounding battle and how this is all going to play. But that's not necessarily what it is. And this guard, Martin, what's his name? Let me see if I can find his name here. He's 5'10". Oh, Rob Martin. Rob Martin, apparently a pretty good defensive player, a guard, right? So that we'll see what we can do in this game between Blackwell and Boyd, and we'll see if he can stay with either one of them. If he can't, they're in a lot of trouble. If Boyd and Blackwell can get by him and get their own shot, and he can't stay with them, that's going to be a problem for High Point. Again, I look at this and go, okay, how do they lose? I think Wisconsin loses if they shoot like 25% from three or something like that. If that happens, they can lose to anybody in this tournament. I promise you they can. The nice thing about all of this is, as good as this backcourt has played, regardless if Nolan Winter plays or not, they might be able to win just if the two guards play as well as they've been playing at this point, Charlie.
Well, and you, again, saw that game against Michigan where both those players had down games, and it resulted in a loss for this Wisconsin Badgers team. At the same time, you talk about that rebounding deficit that this team seemingly has with the Wisconsin Badgers, but they went up against Illinois with a team that has 3 7-footers and were able to find ways to rebound the ball by being aggressive, crashing the glass with your guards. Against Michigan, you didn't really find that much trouble rebounding the ball. Yes, they out-rebounded you, but that's kind of just Michigan's game in general. Their best players are their rebounders, but you still found ways to crash the glass as much as possible. I think you can continue to do that throughout this tournament, and that if you can win the rebound battle against a team like High Point University pretty handedly, I think you can come out of this game with a big win, no matter how good defensively their point guards or front court or back court is. Excuse me.
Let me ask you this. Do you think there is a chance that this Badger team that has struggled in the first weekend with Greg Gard could potentially overlook High Point? Because you can look at games during the season. Oregon, that was probably the ugliest game of the year. USC wasn't pretty, where they didn't show up. Now, I got something else for you. What's common about Oregon and this game here against High Point? Well, the common thing is they're traveling multiple time zones. You had to go out to Oregon and play, and now you have to go out to Portland and play. And it's your first game. Like the second game against Arkansas or whoever it ends up being, I feel better about that game. It's the first game where you're doing the jet lag, you're trying to convert your body over to the time you're playing all that other stuff. I think that is something even a little bit crazier. And if you think about it, that's a 10:50 a.m. start on Thursday in Portland. 10:50 a.m., Charlie.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate for this team. You look earlier in the season, even the game against BYU, you had to change multiple time zones, and they end up getting blown out in that game after going on that 4-game win streak. Yes, against lower opponents, but those are lower opponents. And that's why I want to look at those games prior to that BYU loss, is that they go out there and handle business against these smaller teams. And yes, High Point University is going to go out there and be more competitive in a tournament run. They are a much better team than Campbell or Northern Illinois or Ball State or any of these squads. This Badgers team is just great. Again, from the top of the lineup to the bench when it comes to offense. And if you can outscore these smaller universities, you can win every single one of those games. Just win the rebound battle too.
Asking you, do you like the Badgers draw in the NCAA tournament? Nicolay Law talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. The 414, Blackwell is a good rebounder for a guard. Plus, Winter's rebounding is key as well. Absolutely. Now, this is the thing that I'd like to know too. And whether or not Greg Gard will say this publicly or not, is he going to be on a minutes restriction here in this first game to make sure he's ready to go for Arkansas? Do you set him out there and go, okay, kid, we're going to get you a little lathered up and get you a little 15 minutes. Hopefully this thing is done by halftime and you don't have to play in the second half. Is that the theory of how we're going to go about this? Or are they going to drop him in there and go, all right, you're playing your normal minutes. We're not going to hold back. There's a part of me, because y'all know my concerns about putting guys out there before they're ready. There's a part of me that says I'd play him like 18 minutes, play him in the beginning of the game, play him in the beginning of the second half. And then if it's close in the last 2 or 3 minutes, put him back in to finish it off if you need him. Otherwise, I'm not trying to get Nolan Winter a ton of run right here in this High Point game. You're probably going to need him more in that Arkansas game.
100%. And Billy Auskias has played really well in turn of Winter since that injury has come out. You can get him some run here still. I think it also is going to be dependent on how the first half of this game goes, though. When you go into halftime, if you are down by 3 or it's a tie game, you're only up by 2 even, you got to say, Nolan, we need you out there to continue to be that force in the glass. give us that consistent opportunity. But otherwise, yeah, I'd try to keep him on a lower, lighter minute restriction in order to keep him healthy for the rest of the tournament, especially if you feel like you can make a run. And based on the teams that you've beaten so far this season, I think you can make a run.
Yeah, I think you can make a run too. I totally agree with you on that. Yeah, the other part about this too, I think from a Badger perspective is Blackwell was obviously here. So he knows how it ended last year. And he said, hey, man, if I come back, it's to avenge kind of that deal. Boyd is going to have this one last run at this to see what he can do. Austin Rapp's going back to Portland to play. He was giddy, I guess you could say. If you saw him in the video when they announced where they were going to play and who they were playing, he was really excited. So you're going to have him super motivated to go out and show out in front of, friends of his back in Portland. It seems like it's an okay draw. I just worry about star power eventually. And the Badgers, again, as we've talked about, and I don't know if Charlie, if you pulled that or not, but on CBS, when you start talking about, here we go. If you start talking about these guys on CBS talking about Seth Davis, talking about Nick Boyd and John Blackwell.
Well, I don't know how unknown he is anymore after what has been done in Chicago this week, but Nick Boyd for the Wisconsin Badgers. I love, Bruce, those go-get-you guards, right?
You get your bucket.
Late in the game, late in the shot clock, all your brilliant plays and sets haven't worked, and you say, young fella, go get me one. And Nick Boyd is really good and playing alongside John Blackwell. Those guys, arguably the best scoring guard tandem right now in the country. Nobody's going to want to face the Badgers. They're playing with supreme confidence. I think they're going to have Nolan Winter, the best rebounder, back for the NCAA tournament. Nick Boyd, they go far. Everyone's going to know his name.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. And with that being said, ain't nobody talking about Boyd or Blackwell in the first round that I've seen in a mock draft. Have you seen them anywhere near?
No, I haven't. But, I mean, they
can raise their stock.
They both can raise their stock, and they both feel like players that like the Bucks could potentially need in the future here, especially if you're not going to keep long-term Ryan Rollins or Kevin Porter Jr. These are guys that are veteran players at the college level that can come in and hopefully replace somebody on a young team and help give a little bit more experience in that group, like the Bucks.
Right. Then you get to the prediction part of the show on CBS last night. And Seth Davis, he likes the Badgers.
I'll actually take Wisconsin to go to the Sweet 16 with that one. But a pretty good setup here, I think, for Arizona. They've been arguably the best team in the country. Arkansas, I thought maybe could have gotten to the 3-line by virtue of winning the SEC tournament. I mentioned about North Carolina State. Minor surprise maybe being in that first 4. And then Missouri looking pretty strong to get to that 10 line. So, and by the way, for people who don't think that the conference tournaments count, Purdue getting to the 2 line.
Clearly, no doubt.
Rebuttal.
It's funny, though, because when the Badgers were able to do something and win a tournament, it meant nothing. Purdue has, 8 losses? They get there, and now it means something when Purdue takes off Michigan, who, again, may be the most overrated 1 seed in the tournament.
Well, and probably got tired out by Wisconsin in that game before.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Purdue, relatively compared to some of these other teams, had an easier path despite being the 7 seed in that Big Ten tournament. It was kind of surprising how many teams they went through that were just not up to the same par as some of these higher seeded teams.
The other thing is, I saw Frank Kaminsky just losing his mind on social media about how the committee hates Wisconsin and they screwed Wisconsin again and all of that. And that's what I want to get Nate Gilbride on. I just want to get his point, another former Badger player, obviously older than Kaminsky, just to get his take on it. I don't know, man. Listen, if you're good enough to be a Final Four team, you're good enough to be a Final Four team. If you're not, you're not. I don't care where they seed you, 4 seed, 5 seed, 6 seed, whatever. You're going to have to win a bunch of games to get through there. It's not like they got BYU, not even BYU's not even that good, but it's not like they got somebody that's really outstanding. If you look at the tournament this year, me personally, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you I watched every Arizona game or whatever, I don't think there's a team where you're like, oh, yeah, they're the UNLV running rebels of Jerry Carcanian. Nobody's beating this crew. Or, boy, this is a classic Coach K Duke team. Nobody's beating this crew.
Yeah, but that Duke team looks pretty damn good.
Sure.
I still look at them and say, that's a squad that's built for March.
Fine. And that bracket is loaded with Hall of Fame coaches. Loaded with national champions. Like, that is not an easy bracket where Duke is. But even having said that, I'm just saying, in general, I just don't know if there is that absolute locked in. I'd be stunned if they don't win. Like, I think when you go fill out your brackets, there's going to be a lot of people. Like, Florida's a 1 seed, and I was watching people making projections last night. National people. Hey, nobody picked Florida to come out of their bracket. They're all picking Houston, the 2 seed, to come out of that region.
Well, and I think that's because Houston being the 2 seed in my mind is a little egregious. I think they should have been that 1 seed in that part of the bracket anyways. Doesn't really matter what happened in conference tournaments. They were that good throughout the regular season. I think that's just unfair that they put Florida in that spot, and people are just blaming Florida there and putting Houston in.
Yes, everybody's moving Houston out of that region. So we'll see if Kelvin Sampson and the boys there. Now, again, that's a really talented roster, too. I've seen them play 3 or 4 times this year. That is a really talented roster. So we'll see what they think. We'll talk more about High Point. Kevin Connolly from Fox 8 down near High Point, a sports anchor down there, will join us coming up at 2:40. Looking forward to that. Got another text in here on the Nikolai Law Talking text line 262. Good draw. A lot of teams Wisconsin has already played as in their bracket. If they lose, is Greg Gard on the hot seat? Mentioned this last week. What was it? Friday, I think we brought this up. There's no chance. There's no chance. Chris McIntosh, the athletic director, cannot go fire Greg Gard after he fired Paul Chris, who is essentially what Greg Gard is. They're both teams like Greg Gard is a guy that can get to the tournament every year. Chris was a guy that can get to random bowl games every year. And they're pretty much kind of the similar type situation there. Now, having said that, he fired Chris and it's been a disaster. And that's not fixed. Now, if Fickle in the next 2 years, when their schedule is relatively a lot easier in conference, gets this team back to the bowl game and competing for a playoff spot and all that, if that happens, then in like 3 years, we can talk about Greg Gard if he hasn't done anything in the first weekend. Right now, McIntosh, I don't think they would even allow him to fire him. They would just point to the football program and go, no. You screwed up the football program. You're not jacking up our basketball program, too. You aren't touching Greg Gard. I think Greg Gard's job is really safe. They can't allow him to screw up the basketball program, too.
No, and Greg Gard has been successful. This was one of the most, yes, not record-wise, but when you watched a lot of these games, felt like one of the most successful seasons he's had in a while. Even with John Tanji's emergence last year, just out of nowhere, it just felt like this team gelled really well together, and we're able to go out there and just take down these top opponents that felt unbeatable at the time that the Badgers were playing them. I don't think I went into any of those top 10 matchups and was that confident in Wisconsin. Towards the end of the season in this Big Ten tournament, I wasn't worried about Illinois. Michigan, I thought they could very easily beat Michigan, and they almost did. My whole perspective of this team changed throughout the season, and that tells me there was so much success from Greg Gard's side of things, and he deserves to keep that job.
Here's Charlie Houston, C. Sparky, 5 for over here. Kevin Connolly coming up in about 20 minutes. Up next, we're going to change gears. We're going to go to the Green Bay Packers. Ed Policy, new president in charge, making some headlines over the weekend. We'll tell you what that's all about. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Welcome in, Wisconsin Sports Daily. See Sparky Pfeiffer, Charlie Usen producing. So to come, Kevin Connolly will tell us all about High Point from Fox 8 down in North Carolina, WGHP. Looking forward to talking to him coming up in about 10 minutes or so. Quickly on this deal with Ed Policy. So Ed Policy over the weekend did an interview. And in the interview, he talked about the idea of selling naming rights to the practice facility, selling naming rights to Titletown, and then mentioned that potentially at some point the stadium, but that is something he does not want to do. From that, it blew up all over the place. Pro Football Talk brought it up, and away we went. Irritating and making Packer fans angry all over the world because of this. Y'all need to chill out and read the piece. Just read the damn piece. He didn't say, hey, we're going to sell the naming rights to the stadium by the kickoff at 26. That ain't what he said. Just relax. That's my first thing. My second thing, as he pointed out, they're like the only stadium that doesn't have naming rights attached to it. They have other ways of making money, of bringing more money in. Number one, they could raise your ticket prices a lot more than they did. And that was a pretty steep incline for 26 already. We talked about this last week. They're not going to because they care about y'all. Or at least that's what he says right now. So it's middle of the group in ticket sales. Could he gouge you and get more money from you because of the waiting list, like over 100,000 people? Absolutely he could. Choosing not to. Could they potentially maybe have another stock sale? I don't know. Would it be the worst idea in the whole wide world? No. They're not in dire straits right now. Because that money, that their records are all essentially public, they made just short of $90 million in profit last year. It's around $90 million. That's not somebody that's going to have to move to somewhere else in the country to go play in the National Football League. But what Ed Policy is telling you as the new president, replacing Mark Murphy, is that at some point, we're going to have to come up with another way to bring in more money than we are so we don't fall behind. And Ed Policy is correct. You want to stay with the Joneses. You don't want to be 2 steps behind the Joneses trying to figure out financially how you're going to stay. And yes, every NFL team gets a bunch of money for revenue sharing. That's not the issue. The issue is all the money that you don't get for revenue sharing and how you're hustling to keep yourself above water at that point. That's what this is about. If they want to sell the title sponsorship to the training facility this summer, go for it. If they want to sell the title sponsorship for Titletown, hey, Titletown, brought to you by Chevy, fine, sell it. Go ahead. Is there going to be an issue when they have to sell title sponsorship to the stadium? Are you all going to freak out? Yes, you are. But you should probably wrap your heads around it. I mean, if you're listening to me and you're in your 20s, 30s, you're definitely going to see it. It's going to happen in your lifetime.
Most of the stadiums I've grown up with, the ones that I've seen just across the country, have already had the naming rights before I was born.
They're the only one in the NFL that doesn't have one right now. They're the only one at this point. Ron in Rome, you're next on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line. What's up, Ron?
Yeah, hi, Sparky. You know, I'm older. I grew up in New York. When I grew up in New York, I never went to an NFL game because you had to be like upper middle class or have access to like a corporate tickets and stuff.
Right.
And I didn't know anybody who lived on a lake because you also had to have money. So when I moved to Green Bay in '88, I was like, wow, everybody has a cottage. Everybody has season tickets to the Packers. And it was really nice. And if people sold their tickets to the game, they just sold it at face value. And we had that reputation as a small town where everybody, you know, the streets are empty when a Packer game is on.
Right.
And it really was nice. So I'm not mad at Ed Policy, but I feel a little sad that it's becoming so corporate and that people are fighting over how much, you know, who should get the tickets and how much they should be sold for. And now we're actually talking about selling naming rights. And yeah, that'll probably happen. And then having like Wednesday games and international games. And it's not was.
Well,
And,
no, the world is run by greed, my friend, and it is in all facets of our life, and the NFL is no different. Thanks for the call. It just is no different than everybody else. I mean, I've said this before. Charlie's making X amount of dollars. He's not making 50 G's. So if I went to Charlie and said, hey, dude, we're going to give you a raise to 50 grand a year, Charlie would be like,
Hell yeah, man.
I'll work as many hours as you want for 50 grand a year. I'm in, dude. Right? Okay. Now, after a year, Charlie will have adjusted his personal life to go based on the check he's making. He'll probably get a truck that has a working AC unit.
That
and
would be nice. Yeah.
might have heat too. Right now, he'll be able to afford stuff like that. But now he's going to have a car payment to go along with that and so forth. So now all of a sudden, that huge amount of money that he had all of a sudden shrinks and he doesn't have as much as he wants. And then it's going to be, hey, dog, I need more money, man. This ain't cutting it, man. I need more. But wait, you were just so excited. Yeah, I know. But, I had to get this. I had to get this. We're talking about getting married, maybe have some kids. I got to make more. So that's how it always goes. We all go through this. We all do this. There are very few people in life that don't go about doing their life that way. So why should the pro sports teams be any different? Kevin Connolly, Fox 8 WGHP, will tell us all about High Point basketball as they get ready to take on the Badgers coming up Thursday at 12:50. He joins us next on Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Wisconsin Sports Daily. See Sparky Pfeiffer with you. Hope everything is going well. Lots coming up here on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, including Hot Stove Weekly tonight from 5 to 7, talking Brewers baseball. The franchise, Tim Allen and Tommy Wirtz, your hosts coming up tonight. We'll talk with Jack Stern from BrewerFanatic.com at 6 o'clock. So Brewers baseball talk tonight from 5 to 7. I'm sure they'll talk about Bryce Terang stinking it up last night in the World Baseball Classic, which I'm pretty sure I had everything to do with. We'll explain later in the show. Joining us now from Fox 8 WGHP, he is Kevin Connolly, and on the guest hotline powered by Gruber Law, one call, that's all. Kevin, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure, man. Great time of year.
It is a great time of year. I wish we didn't have a blizzard in the last 24 hours here in Wisconsin, but yeah, we'll go with it. Okay, so I want to talk a little NASCAR at the end of this because I saw that you're a big NASCAR guy, and I used to do a NASCAR show for over a decade, so we never talk NASCAR on this show, but at the end, I just want to bring it up a little bit. High Point.
No problem.
So first off, we know that most Badger fans probably didn't even know where High Point was. Nonetheless, there was a basketball team at High Point. So tell us about the backstory of High Point, how long it's been around, how successful they've been in basketball, and all that fun stuff.
As a university, it's been around since 1926, but for many, many years, it was an NAIA school. It made the transition, to an NCAA and worked its way up to a Division I school, back in the early, like 1990, roughly about that time. It's a member of the Big South Conference. It's won the Big South the last couple of years. It's had a really, really nice run the last 3 years. First under Alan Huss, who is now the coach in waiting at Creighton. And then now with Flynn Clayman, they won 30 games. So the first team in Big South Conference history to win 30 games in a single season. They were the preseason number one. So they've handled everything pretty well this entire season.
I was going over the roster. A lot of international guys on this roster. I saw a couple from Spain. Senegal, I saw another one was from. I get it. It's North Carolina. I see how it's an easy sell to bring anybody over to the U.S. to kind of play over here. Has that been a constant with this roster the last several years?
Well, I just think in general, the transfer portal has been a huge impact on the High Point basketball program. Last year, when they qualified for the NCAA tournament for the first time in school history, there was a pretty good run of transfers, and they lost 3 of their top 4 scorers from a year ago that transferred to bigger schools. So they went back to the transfer portal this year and got there's 11 new players on the roster, including 7 out of the transfer portal. So they've been very, very successful finding those guys that weren't all that happy at other schools, and they've come in, they've bought into the system, and they've really developed some nice chemistry in a very short amount of time. But without the transfer portal, I don't think High Point is in this position.
Talking with Kevin Connolly, Fox 8 WGHP. Following him on X at K Connolly, Fox 8, K Connolly, Fox 8. And we'll talk some NASCAR here in a little bit because he's a NASCAR guy and I like NASCAR too. I want to ask you about NIL money and how that all works, because here at Wisconsin, they kind of have been kind of half in on this whole thing with the Badger football program, Badger basketball. I'm sure they spend a little bit of money, nowhere near comparison to like Indiana and Michigan and those type of schools. Now, there was a commitment made at the end of the football season by the athletic director at Wisconsin, Chris McIntosh, that from the football perspective, at least, they found a bunch of money out of nowhere, apparently. And they started really investing it. And they have one of the top 20 programs, I want to say, in transfer portal classes from this last transfer portal, which is great for the Badgers. How is it at High Point as far as that goes?
Well, there is no football team at High Point University. So basketball is the main sport at High Point. So whatever money that they have through revenue sharing and through some NIL, that money is funneled through and directed to the basketball program. So, they've been able, obviously they're not a huge spender, in comparison to, ACC schools and SEC, but they have a very solid budget for the league that they're in. They're probably at the very top end of the schools that are paying NIL money in the Big South. So they've been pretty successful in the money that they have in finding the right kids to come to High Point.
Go ahead and Google High Point University and then click on images if you want to see what it's like to go to school here. I think you'll be sending your kids to High Point once you see what High Point University actually looks like down there in North Carolina. Let's talk about a couple of the key players on this team. We have the Badgers beat writer, John Steppe, coming up here at the top of the hour, and he pointed out a couple of different guys. First of which was Terry Anderson, and a guy that obviously is your leading scorer at this point, plus 6 boards a game. How critical is he to what y'all do?
Well, the interesting thing about High Point is they're deep. They'll play 9 guys. To this point, 9 guys are averaging double digits on the season. They've got some size, but they also have some wing players like Anderson, who he'll shoot a 3, but he's not afraid to put it on the floor and drive to the basket. But he's been really, really good for High Point. He was great in the Big South Conference tournament. He's been really, really solid. And again, he was on this team last year and only really played. He was a role player last year. His minutes probably doubled from last year to this year, but he's a very, very good player, very athletic. And when he gets a chance, he likes to take it to the rim.
It's interesting because I'm looking at shooting percentages. He's around 30% shooting the 3, as is Rob Martin, the second leading scorer on this team, the guard. From what I was reading, it seems like he's a pretty good defensive guard. And I had mentioned earlier that with the Badgers backcourt of Blackwell and Boyd, Rob Martin is going to be tested. And if Rob Martin can hold one of these 2 guys down, that would be a huge deal for High Point.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, obviously, if you look at the stats, I mean, High Point's averaging 90 points a game, but the difference from last year's team to this year's team is their defensive efficiency is actually a little bit better. And I think some of that speaks to the fact that they do have guys on the bench to come in and give quality minutes if there's a foul trouble issue. I mean, there's not a whole lot of drop off in terms of talent level from the guys that are starting to the guys that are the first off the bench. They've got Conrad Martinez, who played at Arizona. He's coming off the bench, and he's a guard that can certainly do a lot of things. But with Rob Martin, he is super quick. Defensively, he's been really good. So I think, overall they're pretty well balanced. I think they, in conference play, they've been able to overwhelm some of the opponents offensively. But not to be lost in scoring 90 points a game is they've been pretty good on defense as well.
And, it's funny because Badger teams of yesteryear, always a slower paced team and so forth. You go back to the early years of Dick Bennett back when he was here, and then Bo Ryan running that swing offense for a while. That picked up the pace. And the 2 years when they went to the Final Four in the championship game with Decker and Kaminsky and those guys, he kind of just let them go. He trusted them enough to just let them go. This team under Greg Gard is playing faster than they've played in the past, still top 3rd in the NBA. Or in the Big Ten, I should say. But when you look at High Point's pace of play, they're like twice as fast as what Wisconsin is. Wisconsin's like 102nd, 103rd. And I want to say High Point is like top 50 at this point, wanting to get up and run and down. The one thing that also has been brought up is that 3-point shooting for High Point. How big of a factor has that been for them versus, say, transition offense?
Well, I mean, they're shooting at about 35%, almost 36% from 3. But, they've got a player, his name's Chase Johnston. He's hitting 48.5% of his threes. So he came into a game in the Big South Conference tournament. He played 8 minutes, scored 12 points because he hit 4 straight 3-pointers. So, Dang. I mean, he's kind of instant offense. When he gets that opportunity. But But again, yeah, they'll stop at the 3-point line and let it rip in transition. If they get that opportunity, and they do have several guys, not just Chase Johnston, but they do have several guys. Even the big guys, Cameron Fletcher, he'll stop and shoot a three. Owen Aquino, he's a big man, but he'll step out and hit threes.
He's shooting at like 45% clip right now, Aquino.
Yeah. I mean, he's and he's an interesting player. He's kind of a wide body, and but yeah, he'll hit threes. So at any given moment during a game, they'll have 3 or 4 guys that are very capable of hitting 3-point shots on the floor.
Chase Johnston, I didn't know anything about Chase Johnston other than before the show started, my producer's like, "Hey, ask him about Chase Johnston." You brought him up. Do you know what the most interesting thing to me is? He wears number 99 as a basketball player.
Yeah, he was number 2 last year, so he switched to number 99. I'm not 100% sure why he did change it. But yeah, he was number 2 last year, switched it to 99 this year.
It's hilarious. One last thing for you, Kevin Connolly. I want to talk a little bit about the NBA. I saw Denny Hamlin did his thing again over the weekend. Is there a bigger story right now than Michael Jordan and what he has done in the last year? I mean, taking NASCAR to court, winning, and then all of a sudden he becomes the new Rick Hendricks of NASCAR out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean it's been a fantastic story. I mean, if you think about it, here in North Carolina, a Tar Heel legend on the basketball floor with Michael Jordan, and he's really significantly changed NASCAR. The interesting thing about Denny Hamlin, he won yesterday, but yes, he was driving for Joe Gibbs Racing. Okay, he doesn't drive. He does not drive for the team that he co-owns with Michael Jordan,
which makes no sense.
Yeah, he co-owns the cars of Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick, who started the season with the first 3 wins, and also Riley Herbst. So that's 2311 Racing, which is co-owned by Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan. But Jordan, I mean, to have him celebrating in victory lane for the first 3 weeks of the season, and to have him being interviewed on Fox. I mean, it just gave a tremendous amount of crossover for NASCAR. Some of the national shows like Get Up and all these other national shows that they were talking about NASCAR racing and Michael Jordan when they typically don't talk a whole lot about NASCAR racing, but it's been very good, publicity wise for the sport. You mentioned the lawsuit. That lawsuit actually went to trial. They were in court for about 10 days. Then they reached a settlement. And again, that was to change the sort of the financial makeup of NASCAR racing.
Which is awesome. Kevin, I got to roll because we're up against it here on the network. Kevin, thanks so much. Kevin Connolly. Follow him on X, K Connolly Fox 8. I appreciate it so much, buddy. Have a good rest of your day. Take care. Him and I should do a show together. I think that would be fun. Again, he joins us on the guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. John Steppe, Badgers beat writer for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Next.
Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
Welcome in. Hour number 2. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily. We are live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. How y'all doing? I know, besides the snow and everything else. Man, I don't know what the final snow totals are, but I saw yesterday morning, Wausau, y'all were at like 19 inches or something crazy like that.
Nuts.
I mean, there were different parts of the state. I was looking around. There's like 39 inches in different parts. Where I'm at, where I live, we had 10.5 inches this morning when I got up, which is still a hell of a lot better than 19 or whatever the numbers are across the state.
Well, and it seems like it's melting a little bit, so I think that helps. Like, because it definitely wasn't 10 inches when I left my apartment, and we don't live too far away from each other. So I would say it's going down a little bit. Hopefully that trend continues and we don't get any more snow moving forward here.
Just absolutely crazy. Just nuts. Absolutely nuts. Let's see here. I'm clicking on a story here to see what the so yeah, here we go. Get out of here. Snow total reports. This is from the Wausau Daily Herald. Show many double-digit accumulations across central Wisconsin. Some areas receiving over 20 inches. One report of 30-plus inches of snow. The city of Wausau received a daily record-breaking amount of snow March 15th with 23.5 inches, shattering a record of 6 inches set in 1959, Eckberg said, who is Roy Eckberg, the meteorologist, the National Weather Service in Green Bay. That is crazy.
From emergency services down to fast food workers, thank you all for going to work today that did go to work, because that's insane to go through all of that.
Yes.
That's nuts.
No doubt, man. Like there was a map online on social media, and it was the state of Wisconsin was the map. And then they had like X's by all the roads that were closed all over the state of Wisconsin.
At least somebody was trying to help people out a little bit.
Yeah, I know. You know what? Did We Energies put out that graphic? We Energies might have put out the graphic, kind of like, hey, we're going to come help, but be mindful, we might not be able to get to you because these roads are all shut down.
That's thoughtful of them. There you go.
And I'd also, on a personal note, would like to say thank you to We Energies. I'm not sure what happened, but where I live, our power goes out with a 5-mile-an-hour wind in July, and poof, gone. Guaranteed. So last night we had flashlights out. We had this like big like charger, like I don't know. You charge it and then it doesn't need electricity, and you can power your phones into it or whatever else. Yeah. And it's just like gigantic. It looks like a big battery for a car. So we were charging that last night. We're all set. Man, 50-mile-an-hour winds, we never lost power one time.
There you go.
I was like, mark my words, in July is going to be a little breeze, and we're going to lose everything.
Now, next time, you're not going to be prepared at all. It's going to go out for 3 days.
Because the last time it happened, they said they fixed it. And I was like, okay, well, that was last summer, so we'll see. I think they fixed it. We didn't lose power. I was pretty happy. Joining us now on the guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law, one call, that's all. He is John Steppe, Badgers beat writer for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Follow him on X at J Steppe1. John, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a pleasure.
So we had on Kevin Connolly in the last segment from Fox 8 WGHP. He was giving us his thoughts on High Point, as he has them right there in his backyard, mere steps from where his studios are. So we were talking about High Point and a couple players that they have, and more importantly, their ability to shoot the three from outside with a different couple of players. I read your piece earlier today. The pace of play thing just blows my mind. I mean, Wisconsin is actually better than they have been, top third in the Big Ten. And High Point is twice as fast.
Yeah, you're looking at it, and if you like up-tempo basketball, this Portland site really is for you. Because obviously Wisconsin is moving the ball at a tempo that we haven't seen, as has been talked about kind of throughout this season. And then you've got High Point that operates at an even faster tempo. And then, if Wisconsin gets past High Point, then it's Arkansas, which also really likes to push the tempo. So, I think this plays into the way that Wisconsin likes to play games. And, that's kind of one of the things I look at, because obviously you're going to be going up against a good team with a 12 seed and obviously a very good team with a 4 seed. Kind of no matter where you are in the bracket. But, I think stylistically, this fits kind of how Wisconsin ideally likes to play offensively.
Old school Wisconsin would say, we're going to slow these boys down and we're going to limit their possessions, and that's how we're going to win this basketball game. Listening to you talk, that does not seem like the way Greg Gard in Wisconsin is going to play this one.
No, and you look at it, and Greg Gard has given the analogy of Nick Boyd needing to know where it's a school zone and where it's the interstate highway in terms of just how fast of a guard he is. So Wisconsin's ability to play quicker is a lot easier when you've got a point guard like Nick Boyd, who seems to be continuing to elevate his game against top level competition. And if you're looking for a reason for optimism for Wisconsin in this NCAA tournament, I think it really is how Nick Boyd continues to elevate his game against top competition, whether that be top teams or top other point guards. I think about, Bennett Sturtz in Iowa, comes into the Kohl Center, and Nick Boyd was 1 rebound short of a triple double. So, Wisconsin really needed a lot out of him, against Illinois, which was a top 10 team at the time. And he scores 38, breaks the Big Ten tournament record for Wisconsin history that had existed for an entire 24 hours because John Blackwell said it the day before. So, this will be, I think, a really exciting team to watch here in March Madness.
Talking with John Steppe, Badgers beat writer for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel here on Wisconsin Sports Daily. Steve Sparky Fiver with you. They're getting some national recognition. We played Seth Davis earlier in the show in the first hour, giving praise to both Blackwell and Boyd, like you said, as far as being one of the best backcourts in college basketball. And you look at High Point, and they're not going to be able to match up with these two guys, I don't think. But when you get to Arkansas, if Arkansas wins their first round game, and you got Darius Acuff, who some are saying could go 4 overall in this draft, who, again, as people that listen know I love, that is going to be a completely different story as far as trying to slow down the explosion of that dude.
Yeah, and that's where, this team has won a lot of its high-profile games with its offense. But that's a matchup where I think it's really going to test how much this defense has improved. Because it certainly has improved in terms of what we're seeing now, what we saw particularly in the first half of the semifinal, Big Ten tournament semifinals against Michigan. That was definitely an improved, showing.
Without Winter.
Yes. Well, most of all, without Winter against a really big team that you look at Michigan, both Michigan and Illinois are teams that on paper, I would have said before those regular season games, I don't think Wisconsin matches up well against these guys. But for them to do what they did without Nolan Winter against Michigan, particularly in the first half, is definitely a sign of defensive improvement. Now, it's not perfect. That second half against Washington, that run in Chicago, you can kind of find the positives or the negatives, depending on, if you're looking for a reason why Wisconsin could get upset, look at the second half of Washington. But, look at the first half of Michigan if you're looking for a reason why, Wisconsin is better positioned now to go up against some of that star talent that Arkansas. And if you beat Arkansas, obviously Arizona, would really give you your hands full there defensively as well. So, it's a really interesting part of the bracket for sure.
We talk with, local Badger guys, listeners, all that stuff. We have national guys on like Mike DeCourcy and those guys. And we come on, and for the last month or so, I keep asking them, all right, so if it's not Blackwell and it's not Boyd, like who's your ex guy? And everybody says Carrington. That's everybody's guy. And my guy has been Austin Rapp. And he is a roller coaster. You don't know what you're getting. But I mean, he was automatic in that game against Michigan. That's one of the main reasons why they were able to hang in there as long as they were. But I still think he's my X factor in this thing, because if he draws a big out to him consistently in this tournament, that's not around the rim with Winter to have to battle with for rebounds, that's a gigantic win for this Badgers program. If they got to worry about defending Rapp, Blackwell, Boyd, and then occasionally Winter from outside, Wisconsin's going to be really difficult. And again, he doesn't have to hit 6 threes in a game. If he hits 2 or 3 a game and just makes them have to come out to him, that's a big deal for Wisconsin.
And it really fits well, too, with what Wisconsin does in terms of ball screens, because it's so much harder to defend that ball screen when not only can the player roll to the basket, but they can stay out there and hit a three. And Ben McCollum from Iowa kind of laid that out perfectly in terms of just there's always a right answer for Wisconsin with their ball screens, and that makes Nick Boyd and John Blackwell look better too. And you look at it, I don't think it's sustainable in terms of what Rapp did against Michigan with the 6 threes, and I think it was 6 minutes. But as you said, if he's just showing a little bit of a threat on the perimeter, how much that sets up opportunities for everybody else. And I even think about you're mentioning how Carrington has oftentimes been mentioned as the X factor. Well, his 3-point shot has not been on fire the last couple of games, but the threat of him shooting from deep, I think, has opened up other things, and we've seen more of him driving some more other things. I think of the assist that he had in the regular season finale against Purdue. That really stood out to me. So, it really sets up a lot when you've got so many 3-point shooters aside from, and of course, Boyd and Blackwell also can both hit the three. So when you have so many 3-point shooters, it really gives this team a high ceiling. There's the inconsistency that, is causing some people like Clark Kellogg to, pick High Point, but you also look at, this 3-point shooting, and it gives Wisconsin a really high ceiling here going into the tournament.
Talking with John Steppe, Badgers beat writer, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Follow him on X at JSteppe1. I want to talk about Nolan Winter. I have had a long-standing beef since the Packers season, and now I have it with the Bucks with what I now found out about Giannis, which is bringing guys back when clearly they are not ready, and then they quickly get hurt again. And it's been driving me nuts for the last year. Well, 2 years for the Packers. I didn't know about the Giannis thing until Giannis brought it up. But those are things that just bother me. And we were talking about this earlier with Nolan Winter. Like, do you put him on a minutes restriction? Say, all right, man, we're going to start the game with you. We're going to start the half with you. And then if we need you, we'll bring you back for the last 2 or 3 minutes. You're going to play like 15 to 18 minutes somewhere in that area. But we want to get your feet wet so we can use you a little bit more in that Arkansas game. Has there been any talk about a minutes restriction? Do you expect a minutes restriction?
Well, it's funny you asked this because we just got done talking to Greg Gard probably about 20 minutes or 30 minutes ago. And he said that both Nolan Winter and Jack Janicki were in full go mode in practice, aside from major contact stuff. So that's certainly an encouraging sign. I am curious to see how, full go mode in practice on Monday translates into Thursday, first game. But you look at it and it isn't like Nolan Winter hasn't had plenty of opportunities to play with the other 4 people on the court this season. I think back to the game, I think it was the one at Minnesota where he was on the bench for an entirety of 67 seconds. So he's had plenty of time. I think Nick Boyd knows how to play with Nolan Winter. I think John Blackwell knows how to play with Nolan Winter. So I'm not as concerned in terms of that. Yes, there is a little bit of, he hasn't been out there since March 4th, but I don't think that's necessarily as much of a concern there. And I think it probably helps him in a lot of ways that they didn't rush things. He did go up from out to questionable ahead of the Michigan game, and letting him get those couple extra days, I think certainly doesn't hurt. And I think also, not having a game on Sunday helps everybody, not just Nolan Winter, because this is a team that the last 2 years had played 4 games in 4 days and then lost in the first weekend.
Talking with John Steppe again, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, Badgers beat writer. So the Badgers were ranked 23rd nationally. Now they've moved up to 20 in the USA Today, 9 in the AP poll, but they end up with that 5 seed. Frank Kaminsky, former Badger, livid, and is convinced that the committee doesn't like Wisconsin, has never liked Wisconsin. They never get where they deserve. And one of the key points you can bring up is Purdue, 8 losses. They win the tournament and they get a pat on the butt and go, good job, and they get a better seeding. The Badgers do something similar to that years ago, and it's like, oh, well, it's a big deal. We didn't really put that much into that game. So I understand the frustration. Do you think the tournament committee got it right with a 5 seed?
I think it's probably a fair ranking. I don't think it was a surprise to anybody inside the Kohl Center that they were a 5. It seemed like the writing was on the wall there for a while. I think you look at it, and the thing that maybe hurt Wisconsin as much as anything was its non-conference. They played good teams. It was not a matter of who they were scheduling, but they didn't win a lot of those games that, would have looked really good on a resume. And the team wasn't as good as they were back then. So, those two things are related.
Yep.
But you look at it, and I think Villanova is a game in particular that, that's one that you'd like to have back. That would have been quad one. You think back to, not necessarily quad one opportunity, but even, not losing to TCU. TCU's gone up and down on net. I don't know where exactly they are right now, but, some of those games, okay, if those go differently, Wisconsin has a stronger resume. And, what they do at the end of the year, I think matters a lot. But, those first 2 months still are part of, what this team, showed with their resume. And, if you would have asked a lot of, bracket, projection people, they would have said probably before that Michigan game that it was certainly no guarantee that Wisconsin was going to be in the field at all. So it is quite a remarkable growth from the last 2 months or so for them to go from a team probably on the outside looking in before beating Michigan on January 10th, number 2 in the AP poll, number 1 in the coaches poll at the time, to now being a 5 seed. I think that is probably, if you asked anybody that on January 9th or January 8th, I think anybody would have taken that one in pretty much a heartbeat.
That Villanova game still irritates me. The refs screwed them at the end of that game in regulation. That was one of the most atrocious reffing jobs I have seen all year. Watching Badgers, watching Marquette, watching Panthers. I didn't watch a bunch of the Green Bay Phoenix. I apologize, being in Milwaukee. But of those teams that I watched, that was one of the worst ref games as far as not benefiting Wisconsin, and maybe of all the games on the schedule.
Yeah, and I think there are a couple of games that maybe are ones where officiating,
Indiana was horrible too. I take that back. Indiana was worse than Villanova, so I take that back.
Yeah, because I was immediately thinking like, okay, yeah, Villanova had some, calls that I think people, were wondering about, but Indiana was the one where, that really was a what if, especially on the road. That would have been a really nice one to have on their resume. Obviously, Wisconsin, live to tell the tale in terms of, they then go out and beat, then number 7 Illinois. Let's see, that was 3 days. Yeah, 3 days later. And then another 3 days after that, they beat number 10 Michigan State. So, Wisconsin was okay in the long run. But, some of those games, okay, if you don't necessarily put that in a position for the officiating to be a deciding factor, there's probably a higher ceiling in terms of where Wisconsin could have been seated going into this.
All right, John, what's your pick? How far are they going?
I'm thinking Sweet 16. I think it's possible. The next 2 teams are quality 2 teams that they could be going up against. So, I don't think it's a given by any means. I do think they have, guard play is so important. And when you have 2 that can just put their team on their back, that just makes such a difference. I'm not entirely ruling out that they could go further, but if you go further, you're having to beat Arizona, who is really talented and, is going to be picked to go far in a lot of brackets. So I think Sweet 16 is possible, is feasible, and that would be my pick right now, which I think a lot of fans would be quite happy with considering what the current Sweet 16 drought has been.
Yeah, no question. I agree with you there. John Steppe, Badgers beat writer, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Follow him on X at jsteppe1. Thanks so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Always a pleasure.
Take care. There he is, John Steppe, joining us on the guest hotline. Powered by Gruber Law. One call. That is all. Don't forget, tomorrow, St. Patrick's Day. Come and enjoy a day of fun at Moe's Irish Pub on Highway 100 in Wauwatosa with Irish dancers in the 1 o'clock hour, and Wisconsin Sports Daily with yours truly, broadcasting live tomorrow afternoon from 2 to 5 right here on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Again, it's St. Patrick's Day. I know there will be a lot of people out at the bars enjoying some beverages, and some of you aren't even Irish, and you're still going to be out at the bars enjoying some beverages, wearing some green stuff.
Why do you have to be Irish? Whose rule is that?
It's not a rule, but it gives me I'm Irish. You're not Irish. You're Polish. Shut up. But I mean, yeah, but that's what people do, right? It's just
everybody's Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
Is that a rule? Is that how it goes?
That's how it works.
That must be the thing that I'm missing. Coming up next, let's talk about the crew. How about Kyle Schwarber and what he said yesterday? Hot damn. Stay tuned for this one. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Welcome back. Wisconsin Sports Daily. Make plans to watch college basketball. John Kuhn, Ronnie Mackloff, Mitch Thunder Nellis, and myself coming up on Thursday. All three shows will be broadcasting live from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. from the Annex at the Potawatomi Casino Hotel. There's going to be all kinds of TV set up and the whole deal. It's going to be a lot of fun. Potawatomi, bet above the rest. We'll see you out there Thursday between 9 and 5. Looking forward to hanging out with all the listeners and watching some college basketball and having a lot of fun. So that's going to be good. Also good is this right here.
It's time to talk about the crew. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
Now, I do want to get to what Kyle Schwarber said. But before we do that, some breaking news from the Milwaukee Brewers. Not player related, but a pretty cool announcement nonetheless in my email from the Brewers. The Milwaukee Brewers will offer fans an exclusive first look at Uke, a new documentary celebrating the extraordinary life and legacy of Bob Uecker with a special post-game preview on opening day, March 26th. Immediately following the conclusion of the game, fans are encouraged to remain in their seats for the debut of a 20-minute segment from the film, marking the first ever public showing of the documentary that has been more than 2 years in the making. The movie chronicles the incredible life of the immortal and beloved Bob Uecker, spanning his lifetime, including rare content and interviews with Ueck's family and loved ones from his baseball and entertainment life. Produced by September Club, Ueck will enjoy a major theatrical release later this summer with more details to be announced. So, again, if you're going to opening day, you wait till the game is over, win or loss, and then they're going to put it up on the Jumbotron or whatever they call it in baseball. They're going to put it up there on the big screen, and they're going to play a good chunk of it, 20 minutes. That's a lot. Like, I thought it was going to be like 5 minutes. No, 20 minutes. Now, do you reopen the concession stands for those 20 minutes, or do you keep them closed? I mean, the game's over, so by MLB rule, you shut it down when you're supposed to. Game's officially over. Open it back up for 20 minutes. Come have a beer.
Maybe, they close them at like the 7th inning usually. You just have all the staffers start making popcorn. And then you can hand out little bags of popcorn to everybody to watch the first 20 minutes. And then you can kind of appease some of that. Yeah, people may not be able to get drinks, but you get the popcorn. You may hand out a bottle of water too or something.
Or sodas.
Yeah, that.
Sodas don't cost anything.
You do that.
Right. I mean, the fountain sodas or whatever else, not bottles of soda, but like fountain sodas.
Popcorn and sodas. I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
I think that could be fun. So very cool. Looking forward to seeing that. We'll have to go see Uke when it comes to the theaters this summer if you're not at opening day to see that 20-minute preview. All right, let's get to what was said yesterday. And it's funny because my buddy called me. He's like, hey, watching the pregame show for the World Baseball Classic. My first response was, I didn't know there was a pregame show like that early because that was during the selection show. I'm watching the selection show. I'm waiting patiently for 7:00 to get here for the World Baseball Classic. I literally was waiting all day yesterday to get to the World Baseball Classic to see that game last night. So excited. And boy, did I yell a lot. But we'll get into that coming up at 4:20. So in the pregame show, Kyle Schwarber joined the pregame show, guys, and check this out.
Watch you guys all the time. You guys are amazing to watch, but you don't get to sit and watch and work with guys like you do for a 2-week stint. Is there somebody that all of a sudden you went, I didn't realize he was that good? He's pretty dang good, but I didn't realize he was that good.
Man, it's been a couple guys, especially like on the offensive side of the ball. Like I just say, like yesterday, for example, we were had our workout and we're hitting BP and we turn it into a little game and we do like an RBI game, so pretty much a glorified home run derby, right? And here comes Bryce Strang, and this guy's putting him up in the second deck, like right center, and I'm like making me feel small. Like I'm like,
wow. That's saying a lot, man.
Like and that's the way that he plays the game. PCA, Ernie, like all these dudes that, and I've gotten to be around Paul a little bit, right? Like, and just everyone, man. It's just been such a great experience.
That's cool.
Can I just say this? That when they were flashing up on the screen, the ages, Major League Baseball is in a really good position. I mean, the stars of, if you want to say tomorrow, they're probably the stars of now as well. You'll have these guys like 22, 23, 24. Like, you got another decade of all these dudes, and you still have a whole nother decade of young guys coming behind these guys. This is about as good as Major League Baseball, I think, has been in a long, long time.
Well, and it's not even just that these players are good. They're great. They're like all time. Watching Paul Skeens on the mound, man, is just absurd. Like, he is, if he stays healthy, going to be one of the greatest pitchers of all time, and I guarantee that. That's crazy. Even the older stars of the game, Aaron Judge is still not that old. Like, he still probably has 5, 6, 7 more years left in him before he retires. Kyle Schwarber is a guy who's just getting into his prime, and he's older in his career too. You just have such a big range of players that are just stars in the game right now. It just feels like that renaissance is rejuvenating for the sport of baseball.
So the question is this: what do you think Bryce Terang's ceiling is? Like, when he gets that peak year offensively, what's that peak year going to look like? Because I think we all agree he's still climbing up, right? Like, Giannis is probably coming on the other side of the hill, right?
I would agree, yeah.
Rodgers is already at the bottom of the hill. He's already done. He's already come down and climbed down the other side. He's just now both feet on the ground on flat land, walking away from the mountain. That's where Aaron Rodgers is. Jordan Love is still climbing up the hill. He still hasn't peaked yet. For Bryce Terang, what do you think that ceiling looks like for Bryce Terang? What is that peak year going to look like for Bryce Terang? Nikolai Lautaka, text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. On the socials at WI Sports Radio, streaming live on X and YouTube as well. Don't forget on YouTube, man, we have shorts up there. We have all kinds of different videos. Check us out on YouTube, WI Sports Radio on YouTube. So last August, Bryce Terang has a 10-homer month. Everybody's like, what in the world is going on? Then you hear Kyle Schwarber talk about him putting it in the second deck in right center. This isn't pulling the ball. This is poking it out there, right? That tells you he's got quite a bit of power. A lot more than I think people probably give him credit for when looking at him when he gets up to it, the plate to swing. Or even if you're just by him. You know, I don't think anybody thinks he's got that type of power. I'm going to say that his ceiling probably is what PCA did last year, Pete Crow Armstrong. I think his ceiling probably is 30-30, where it's 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases. I think that's where he maxes out. Maybe he gets to 40 stolen bases in a given year, and it's 30-40. That's tough, though. But I don't think he's got 40 home run power. So I'll say his ceiling is probably 30-30 and Gold Glove or Platinum Glove, depending on which year it is, I guess. I think that's his ceiling, and that's unbelievable. At second base, to put up those type of numbers, that's not a corner outfielder. That's not a first baseman or a third baseman. That is a second baseman, which, if you know your history of Major League Baseball, normally is like the guy that's either really, really fast or it's a great Sal Frelick. That's kind of what's been at second base for a long time in baseball. And once in a while, you have the Martes of the world that got some pop or whatever. But normally, that's necessarily not always the case. That's what really, really separates Bryce Terang. And we talked about this last week as well, as far as is he pricing himself out of Milwaukee? The answer is clearly yes. But when we start talking about where is his ceiling, where is his peak, and hopefully we get it here in the next 3 or 4 years in Milwaukee, I think it's 30-30. And I was going to say it was going to happen this year, but I kind of screwed that up last Saturday night. We'll get to that in a second. Charlie, where do you think his ceiling is?
I think I'm going to compare it more to a player than an actual number where he's at right now. I just looked back because I wanted to see kind of what his peak was. Chase Utley at his peak was hitting 33 home runs, was that type of guy who could be that top tier defender in certain seasons. He doesn't quite have the same kind of stolen base numbers as Bryce Terang. He does
not run as good as Terang.
No, but he still had a 23 stolen base season, which I think if Bryce Terang is putting more focus into his power, you will see those stolen base numbers kind of decline a little bit, especially as this Brewers team keeps getting faster. You keep adding more players that are more likely to steal bases than a Bryce Terang. I think you may see that number dip a little bit. I feel like he could have that Chase Utley type of ceiling right now, which is a Hall of Famer.
Yes, potentially.
That's how excited I am on this player after a half a season, technically.
Now, how much is the power of a Sparky Jinx? We don't know yet, but it's not looking good early for me. I'll tell you that much.
Maybe I got a Charlie Charm on the other side of things to even it out.
I don't know. Are you doing fantasy baseball this year?
I'm going to try, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't drafted a team yet.
So we had our draft on Saturday night, and I was drafting while driving back from Illinois. Never a wise decision, probably, right? Never to do a draft while driving necessarily. But I had no choice. Last year, I was at their house, and there's a bunch of us over there, and I brought the now 10-year-old with me, and he hung out, whatever. Focus was just not there. There's too many distractions, people talking, having conversations. Oh, you're up. Oh, great. Let me go back. This way, the way I did it, I had complete focus. Probably the best draft I've ever had in that league. And I took Bryce Terang in that league. And then the World Baseball Classic game comes last night. And what happens? 0 for 4, a couple of strikeouts, and a defensive miscue on top of everything else. And I felt horrible. I was like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Please do not let this happen. Now, the other side of it, I did also have Caminero, who hit a home run. So that kind of evened it out a little bit. But I don't know, man. Like, if Terang sucks in like April and May, I'm going to have to like trade him, aren't I? I can't keep him all year.
I don't even think you can trade him. I think you got to release him, Sparky. You got to cut him. If you trade him and you get something back out of it, you got to immediately reverse the curse. You know, if you get something back out of it, you don't reverse the curse.
I mean, it makes sense. I'm not going to argue with you. I think it makes a lot of sense of what you're saying. I just am a little concerned. Christian Kirk, 1-year deal with the Niners. That's a great deal for San Francisco.
He was not very good last season, though.
Yeah, but it's Shanahan.
Yeah, that's true.
They'll get something out of him. Shanahan gets something out of everybody, seemingly, that they end up with at the end of the day. By the way, what's going on with Ayuk? Is he going to be there, or is he not going to be there?
No, he's going to be done there. From all this words out of their front office that he's just not going to be a part of the team, that they potentially could release him if they haven't already decided to do that. I think this is the kind of player that has just tanked his entire career himself. I don't see any other team that would want to touch him with a 10-foot pole, man.
Let me remind you that the Green Bay Packers wanted him in that draft. Just saying. Just throwing it out there. Coming up next, Charlie's Sounds of the Day. Oh, yes, it is. And you're going to want to stay tuned for that. Hey, can you feel it? The thrill of witnessing a walk-off grand slam. A buzzer-beating 3 at Sparky. You know the feeling. And there's only one place to experience that raw exhilaration, the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Reserve your seat ahead of time today by going to Potawatomi.com. There's a nominal fee, but that goes towards your food and beverage. So you're going to spend that money anyhow. Catch all the action in a supreme space with dozens of sports betting kiosks, cool drinks, 48 beers on tap, dozen different specialty cocktails, 2 levels of seating with all kinds of variation as far as the seating itself. Great food, full menu at the Potawatomi Sportsbook kitchen, homemade pastries and desserts to go along with it, all-day brunch, great atmosphere, and a monster video wall that can show 30 sporting events at one time. 2,000 square feet. Only at the Potawatomi Sportsbook. I say it's the best sportsbook in the Midwest. I don't think it's close. More info now at Potawatomi.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino. Straight ahead, Charlie's Sounds of the Day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Welcome back, Wisconsin Sports Daily. We'll get to Charlie Sounds of the day momentarily. Don't forget, please, the fifth Friday, every Friday at 4:20, your chance to tell somebody to shh. You're embarrassing yourself. Don't say that, right? Could be host on Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Could be anybody. Could be family members, friends, people you see on TV, athletes, GMs, coaches, doesn't matter. But you can nominate them all week long, and then Charlie will go find it. Just use the talk and text line 414-677-1250. Again, Habish Rotier, as they say, national reputation, hometown service. And folks, you get the national reputation from winning cases. And if we're being honest, winning big cases, record-setting cases in the state of Wisconsin. That's cool. You know what's even better than the national reputation? That hometown service. That's the best part. National reputation is cool, and that's for them. The hometown service is for us. That's where we win, right? Because they treat us like we're family, like we're friends. They're going to treat you like you are the most important thing. No matter where you go, 13 locations across the state, you're going to get treated the right way. And do you know how I know that? They've been around for 100 years. 1930, they started. In order to be around since 1930 and have 13 locations, you got to be doing something really, really right. And they do it the right way. And that's why I like talking about them. Habish, and Rotier have been helping injured Wisconsinites, again, since 1930. Habish attorneys are experienced, approachable, and dedicated, helping clients pursue the compensation that they deserve. Check them out today, Habish.com. Again, that's Habish.com. And you will be on your way. And you can, tweet at me at Sparky Radio and be like, dude, I'm using them. And you were right. They are awesome. And I will say, you're welcome. And I'm glad it all worked out for you. So again, Habish.com. Habish and Rotier. National reputation, hometown service.
What sound clips will Chicago Charlie pick today for Sparky? Will Sparky become enraged? Will laughter ensue? It's time for Charlie's Sound of the Day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
All right, Charlie, Sounds of the Day. We actually got a little bit of time here. I got to this a little bit earlier than I normally do. How about that? I got a whole 7 minutes here. All right, Charlie, what do we got?
First up, we're going to start with some NCAA tournament talk from different coaches and then a play after that. But the first coach that we're going to hear from is Brad Underwood of Illinois, and he is relieved he does not have to face Nick Boyd again. Here's Brad Underwood talking about his team's recent failures.
Yeah, it'd be nice to shoot the ball a little better. I think we've got a group that can really do that. We haven't been great the last couple of games from three. I think defensive rebounding, I think it's one possession. I don't think it's a lot. I think we're doing a lot of things really well. I was frustrated with our rebounding the last couple of games in terms of just being nasty enough to go snatch a ball. But I think that, we've got to keep, we don't see Nick Boyd, which is probably a good thing. But yeah, I think then it's just sustainability for 40 minutes. We can't take plays off.
I appreciate it as a Badger fan that you're dropping Nick Boyd. Ain't nobody even talking to you about Nick Boyd or the Badgers. You just dropped Nick Boyd all by yourself.
Well, Michigan's head coach had another comment on ESPN talking about how he's happy he doesn't have to face any Big Ten teams at all. Like, all these guys are so lucky they don't have to go through the rest of the Big Ten. That conference was just so awesome this year, and they're represented in the tournament, and they're going to show again in the tournament. It's just cool.
I understand his want to get on his big guys to rebound better, and they should. Underwood is absolutely right. I'll tell you the guy that needs to figure this out is Keaton Wagler. Like this is a lottery selection. And I'm not saying he's going to fall out of the lottery if he don't play well, but he's got to play better than he's been playing. You go back and you look at his numbers. He had 19 against Wisconsin. He had 11 against Maryland, 3 of 10. Against Oregon at home, 4 of 11 for 11 points. Then he had a 23-point game, 19-point game, then a 10-point game at USC. He's got to come to play. And the talking point is simple. Hey, man, you want to see your lottery go up? You want to make even more money in the draft? You really want to be that guy to help your team get on a run? You got to get you 20, 23, 24 points a game in this tournament. You got to go do your thing. You can't show up and be non-existent and not be a factor in this thing. You got to be the scorer. And I understand you got Stojakovic's kid on that team, and they're super talented, but Wagler's got to be the guy. He was not the guy here towards the end of the season, the last 3 or 4 games.
No, he was not. Next up, we're going to head on over to the WAC championship, where California Baptist University clinched the 13th seed in the NCAA tournament after Utah Valley did this.
For Linhart. A screen from Davis. He rolls, puts it up for Davis. He missed the dunk. CBU says save the last dance for me. CBU wins the final WAC championship to go to the tournament for the first time in program history.
I feel bad for the dude.
He's sitting on the court afterwards with his jersey over his head. Like, that has got to be. So it was wide feeling. Open to alley-oop. It was going to tie the game.
For the rest of his life.
Yep.
For the rest of his life. Absolutely horrible. I feel bad for that guy, man. I don't feel happy for the team. I feel more bad for the guy. Right. I mean, I'm glad the other team won, whatever. First time, great. But I feel bad for the dude. That's not good. All right, what else you got?
And last up here, we're going to head on over to our friends down in Chicago. Spiegel and Holmes, we're talking Team USA's energy in the World Baseball Classic, a conversation me and you kind of got into before the show.
I don't understand why Team USA has why they've taken such a serious tone with all of this, like the Cal Raleigh stuff, who is now just getting clowned
for sure
by everybody, including the Savannah Bananas.
Amazingly funny.
Weekend.
Yeah, you sent that highlight in the thread. It's the Bananas, like a batter goes up to a catcher and tries to get a handshake. He says no.
And even Naylor, when he went up to bat against Cal Raleigh, he's like, hey, you gonna shake my hand? No? All right, I'm gonna go over here and bat.
Yeah. Right. And Naylor's a Canadian player. So it's not just, people like that. But when you say the tone, you mean stuff they say or stuff they act, everything they do, or what?
It very much feels like duty and not a calling.
Okay, I'm not the smartest person in the world. This duty versus calling thing, whatever. My thing on all of this is, and you and I were talking about it, they're treating this like a business trip.
Mm-hmm.
And these other guys are treating this like life and death. I think that's the difference.
Well, and I think that's the difference between a duty and a calling. A duty is something you're told you have to do. You have to go out there and just get it done. You have to do your job, which is how they're treating it, versus a calling feels like this is something you've been waiting for your entire life. This is what you were meant to do. And
Bryce Harper wants the Olympics. He ain't talking about this like life or death for him, but these guys are taking a more serious tone. And as I told you, it came to me watching that game last night. And I was like, damn, man, you know who would be perfect for this team to bring some swag, to bring some emotion, to get your guys fired up and be more like the Dominican Republic or more like Venezuela or Team Italy and Fisher losing his mind? Do you know Jacob Mizorowski, the Miz? Bring him in there. Let him throw 103 miles an hour, jumping, hopping off the mound, screaming and yelling, pumping fists and going nuts. Maybe that helps to start to turn this thing around. Or better yet, tell Fisher you can play for the U.S. next time with your war paint, and you can be the guy screaming and yelling. Mizorowski can be pitching, and let's go play.
Well, I just wonder if, like, being around some of these other players, these bigger, more stoic type of guys that have been around the game a little while, changes some of the perspectives of some of these other players. Like, Pete Crow Armstrong's on this team, and he's a high-energy guy that's always flying around. He feels like he doesn't have the same energy. Roman Anthony has been awesome throughout the World Baseball Classic, but isn't playing with that same kind of energy despite being that young, kind of high-profile character that we've seen him be before. So maybe playing with Aaron Judge, maybe playing with Bryce Harper kind of tones you down a little bit.
Maybe DeRosa doesn't want the antics.
Maybe that too.
nobody brought that up, but maybe Mark DeRosa simply does not want the antics. He wants to be old school. We're here for business.
Creates his own antics by getting things wrong.
Being an idiot. But I mean, you're here to do a job, and you're here to win this thing. We're the favorites. We're supposed to win this. Let's not do all these antics and get out of what we're supposed to be doing here. Coming up next, Green and Gold update time. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. An interesting trade happened earlier today in the National Football League, and it has some ramifications, I believe, on the Green Bay Packers. I'll tell you all about what that was and how it impacts the Packers. Coming up next. Time for your fan weather forecast brought to you by Integrity Exteriors. The blizzard warning is expiring, which is a good thing. 25 degrees and cloudy right now. A real feel of 11 degrees. Tonight, a low of 8 degrees.
Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
It is that time again, 4 o'clock hour. Hope y'all are well. Don't forget Hot Stove Weekly tonight, 5 to 7 with the franchise. Tim Allen and Tommy Wirtz. Get their thoughts on Bryce Durant going 0 for 4 with the defensive miscue last night. Plus, Jack Stern from BrewerFanatic.com joins the show at 6 o'clock. That's Hot Stove Weekly tonight from 5 to 7 on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Always fun hearing some Brewers conversation with Tim and Tommy during the course of the week. And, of course, when the season starts, that's next week. When the season starts, we'll have the leadoff show before every game with our guy Tommy Wirtz. And then, of course, the Potawatomi Sportsbook post-game show after most games. There may be a couple hiccups early on because the station in Milwaukee has the NCAA tournament games on throughout. So there may be some hiccups there for the post-game show early. But after that, every game, we'll have Tim Allen and Tommy Wirtz on after every Brewers game. So looking forward to that throughout the season. Now, it's 4 o'clock, which means we got to do a little of this.
It's time for your green and gold update on Wisconsin Sports Daily, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer.
All right, so there was a trade that went down today in the National Football League that I think has some implications on your Green Bay Packers. It appears that the New York Jets have moved on from Justin Fields and have sent him to the Kansas City Chiefs pending a physical. Now, the Chiefs will take on $3 million of the $10 million salary that Justin Fields was guaranteed in 2026. So the Jets effectively offset both the cash and pick they gave up to get new starter Geno Smith by moving last year's starter. The Chiefs are expected to send a 2027 sixth-round pick to the Jets in exchange for Justin Fields. This will be the last year of Justin Fields' contract as well. So they're not on the hook for like 4 years or 5 years or anything like that. The reason why I feel like this affects the Green Bay Packers is because Justin Fields was a name that was out there that was being attached to the Green Bay Packers. And based on reports today from Adam Schefter and others, there were several teams interested in Justin Fields with the Jets. Now, I had not seen the Packers were one of them, but there were several people attached. So with Justin Fields off the board, another player that is on another roster that apparently also is fielding offers in the trade market is the Indianapolis Colts with Anthony Richardson. The question is this. After seeing the trade, would you rather have had Justin Fields over whoever may be brought in now as the Packers' backup quarterback? Nikolai Law, talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. On the socials, Instagram, X, Facebook, at WI Sports Radio. Always here for you, streaming live on X and YouTube as well. There's a lot of love for Anthony Richardson out there from Packer fans. There's a lot of conversation around Anthony Richardson of, he'll just be Malik Willis. Yeah, that'll be fine. Right? We'll trade for him. We'll make him Malik, right? And then he'll go sign somewhere else and we'll get a comp pick for like the 4th round. And we'll just do the same thing with Malik Willis and it'll be fine. While I appreciate the confidence in Matt LaFleur and what he's potentially able to do with the next guy, I think we need to be a little bit more careful as far as what exactly you're going to do with this backup quarterback. And Matt LaFleur has to obviously sign off on this. And there has to be some conversations in the background about Anthony Richardson's work ethic, Anthony Richardson's ability to process information, Anthony Richardson's want to or not want to avoid taking unnecessary hits and buying into sliding and getting out of the way of trouble. We all know Anthony Richardson has a cannon for an arm. Nobody's questioning that. We all know Anthony Richardson can make plays with his legs. Nobody's questioning that. But the one thing we also know about Anthony Richardson is he just hasn't done enough of it. When the Colts drafted him, he didn't have a ton of playing time at Florida over the course of his time there. He just didn't. So now you bring in an extra raw project and said, okay, if you remember, Chris Ballard was super excited. We got the best player in the draft. I can't believe it. It was all over. It was a viral video. Super excited. And then what happens? Now he gets that opportunity. He didn't look all that great when he did play. And then when he did look good, by the end of that game, he'd get hurt and he'd be done again. And simply could not stay on the field. This was not a Malik Willis issue. Malik Willis did not have problems staying healthy and staying on the field. Malik Willis was not a first-round pick. Malik Willis was not given really any serious opportunity to do anything in Tennessee. They drafted a replacement for him quickly. And probably, you could argue, too quickly before they really figured out what exactly they had at the end of the day. And now as you sit here, as an organization looking for a backup quarterback again, to roll the dice and hope that this works out, it's definitely a gamble. Now, is it much of a gamble if you're only giving up a 6th round pick? Is it much of a gamble if you're only giving up a 7th round pick? No, it's not. It's really not at the end of the day. There is part of me that would really rather have a veteran backup quarterback that we don't have to see Matt LaFleur work on and develop through the course of a quarterback school in the offseason, through the idea of OTAs and training camp. And then God forbid something happens to Jordan Love in the first couple of weeks. And here comes Anthony Richardson. And now he's got to figure it out. And he literally just got there. Like, there is a part of me that would rather have a veteran backup quarterback that has done this for a while, that's played in several offenses, that's going to come in and be like, oh, it's similar to this. Okay, I got it. Let's go. And go. Now, does that veteran quarterback have the same upside? No. Does it matter? No. Because this isn't a long-term answer for Jordan Love that we're looking for. What we're looking for is somebody that can win, like Malik Willis, 2 or 3 football games if need be during the season. That's what you're looking for. If you're making this trade because you want to get a first-round pick in 2 or 3 years, okay. Then play the upside and see what you can get with Anthony Richardson. If you're making this trade because you're not certain that Jordan Love is the quarterback of the future for the next 10 years in Green Bay, then by all means, make the trade and get Anthony Richardson. But if it's neither 1 or 2, which I don't think it is, to me, I would avoid Anthony Richardson.
I think the player I want to be the Packers' backup quarterback is a guy that plays in the same kind of system that Jordan Love does.
Sure.
As much as Malik Willis rocked when he was out there with the Green Bay Packers,
he did rock.
Matt LaFleur had to consistently change the game plan.
Yep.
And I think overall with the rest of the roster, you saw guys take steps backwards, especially when Jordan Love came back into that lineup and they had to get readjusted to what Jordan Love does instead. And I think that's something that Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst should be looking at this offseason and say, how do we keep guys in rhythm when Jordan Love is potentially not out there on the field? I think when you're jostling back and forth between two different types of quarterbacks, that can throw guys out of that rhythm. When you bring in a player that's going to replace a Jordan Love, you need that same type of player that's going to be confident, that's going to go out there and be able to hit consistently guys outside of the hash marks and be able to do those things that Jordan Love can do, because then that gets Christian Watson back into that groove easier. That gets a not Romeo Dobbs anymore, but a Dontavian Wicks into that type of rotation a little bit easier and makes it just ease for the rest of this team.
All right, let's go to the Nikolai Law Talking text line, 414-677-1250. The question, after seeing the trade for Justin Fields to the Chiefs, would you rather have had Justin Fields over whoever is brought in as the next backup quarterback for the Green Bay Packers? Again, 414-677-1250. Let's go to our guy, Ram, on the north side of Milwaukee. You're next. What's up, Ram?
Justin Fields all day, not even a question.
Why?
All day. One, he has had reps as a starting quarterback with three different teams. And I've seen this Richardson guy, and I was just telling Charlie, he reminds me of the white version of Mitch Trubisky. A guy played in 11 college games, and then they jump. What to do? They give up some players to get Mitch? I'm just saying. And we know that Jordan Love gets hurt.
Yep.
Every season he gets. So what happens then? Do we go backwards like 2 or 3 games? What if he outperformed more than a couple games? You know. But one thing with Malik Willis, he could take hits. He would take hits, and he won games. What was his record, like 5-2 or something like that?
Yeah, he was really good.
Yeah, he was really good. So I don't know. Maybe that's an anomaly, Sparky, to say, well, I don't know. We got to try something else. But I'm with you. Get somebody like a Sam Darnold, somebody in line like with what's his name, Kirk Cousins, some like that.
That's
guy,
another one.
That can get into a system and not destroy the rhythm, possibly can win a game. But the Packers are saying we Super Bowl bound. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm scared of this one. I'm really scared of this. The backup. That's going to be, I don't know.
I think the backup is more important because of what you said, and that is Love can't stay healthy either. Thanks for the call. I think that's fair. I think this isn't Brett Favre who plays every week and never gets hurt. This dude's been hurt every year he's been the starter. So, I mean, from that perspective, I think you have to look at this and go, okay, so if we play the game of he's probably going to miss a game or two, not that he's going to miss half a season. Nothing like they miss half a season. I don't care who the quarterback is, they're screwed. But if he misses a game or two every year, right? If he averages 15 games a year, which is fine. I'm not going to, cry about that. Who can get you those two? And the other part about this is, which you can't do with Anthony Richardson, but you can do with Kirk Cousins, if he would agree to come here and be a backup, which I don't think he will. But if you could do with him or a Flacco, which is, there might be some stuff Jordan Love might be able to learn from some of these gray hairs that are coming in to be his backup quarterback. There might be some education that he can pick up on. Learn nothing from Anthony Richardson or Justin Fields or these cats. Like, it's not happening. Justin Fields made sense because he was a little bit more like Malik Willis, right? The ability to get out there and run first, throw second. The problem with Justin Fields is, man, holds on to the ball for a day and a half and takes unnecessary sacks. And it's been an ongoing thing over and over and over from Chicago to New York and everywhere else he's been. And he's got the legs to get out and run. And do you know who we should blame for that?
Who's that?
Who was the offensive coordinator that told that kid, hey, dog, you need to stay in the pocket and quit running around?
The person that I like the least out of any football personality I've ever seen, Luke Getsy.
Where is he now?
He's still with the Green Bay Packers now.
I mean, do we really want to put those two back in the same room together? Probably not a good idea.
Getsy is a good 70% of that. I think both his situations in Chicago, New York, too, he just didn't have offensive lines that were there to protect him. And I know right now not a lot of people are super confident in the Packers' offensive line every single game, but it's a better offensive line. It's a better coaching staff that's helping that offensive
Right.
line be able to block. I think this would be a situation where he could, yes, still have Luke Getsy as a coach, but be just in a better overall roster that could help him make those decisions faster.
No doubt. Charlie Usen over there, Steve Sparky Fiver with you, asking you about this Justin Fields trade. Again, I'm not one that really ever wanted Justin Fields per se, but I know there were a lot of Packer fans that did, that thought like he was a good fit. And now he is off to the Kansas City Chiefs, which again for him is great. He gets to learn from Andy Reid. He gets to learn from Patrick Mahomes. He's going to have a great defense because Spagnuolo's the defensive coordinator still. If he has to come in and play, they're going to put him in a good situation to win with Andy Reid. Like, it's perfect for Justin Fields to kind of rehab himself and get himself better, similar to what Malik Willis ended up getting from Matt LaFleur.
100%. And you've seen it in Kansas City for a little bit longer than even with Green Bay and Matt LaFleur. You've seen guys go through that system and be better than you probably expected. Gardner Minshew in the couple of games that he played last season before he got hurt too with the season-ending injury looked really good inside that Kansas City offense. You've seen guys, Chris Olave last season at moments looked like he could actually start a game for a real NFL team despite being a third-string guy. That offense, that coaching staff can raise anybody's ceiling. I think Justin Fields is a guy who is a former first-round pick who has shown he has a high ceiling if you can get to it. Kansas City is the best spot for that.
Charlie Usen over there, Steve Sparky Fiver with you. We'll take a quick time out, come back on the other side. We've got to talk about the World Baseball Classic last night. Have to. I was jacked for that game last night. I could not wait. I cannot wait for tomorrow night. Please let Italy win tonight. That would be wonderful. But either way, it'll be a good game tonight, them and Venezuela. A lot of chit-chat going on about the end of that game and that last pitch. A lot of chit-chat. It wasn't a strike. It wasn't a strike. It was a ball. All this stuff. We're going to talk about that coming up next, because I think my view on this might be a little bit different because I watched the game. I swear to God, of most of the people that are talking about this, I'm convinced they didn't watch the game. I'm convinced they saw the highlight and lost their mind and didn't watch the entire game. I'm convinced of it. I'll tell you what I mean. Coming up next, Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky with you. Welcome in. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily. Steve Sparky, 5 for Charlie using on a Monday. The blizzard is behind us. Thank goodness. It's March, man. Seriously. Am I good now to drain the gas out of my snowblower? Are we done?
No, Sparky. It's Wisconsin.
You mean no?
You really think that we're going to go through the rest of March through April without at least one more snowstorm?
I better hope so. Yes. Yes, Charlie. Yes. I am expecting no more snow. I've not been told that by meteorologists anywhere in the state. Like, I have no idea. But for me personally, yes, I would assume there's no more snow.
Last week, 2 weeks ago, there was not supposed to be this much snow this week. And it changed.
And I almost drained the gas out of my snowblower 2 weeks ago when we were like in the 50s and we had 7. I was like, we're done. Like, we might get colder, but we're not going to get more snow. Thank God I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It all worked out. Okay, so we got to talk about this. Last night, USA versus Dominican Republic, World Baseball Classic, amazing game itself, but this got everybody mad.
Being able to hang out with these guys, pick their brain a little bit, it's
this
unreal.
is Tarek,
One of the
sorry.
best experiences I've ever had. Going to dinner with these guys, hanging out, it's just been a blast. So coming through the minor leagues or high school, watching these guys play in the big leagues and looking up to these guys and then finally being able to meet them and hang out and talk with them, it's great.
Yeah, clearly the wrong club, but still, Bryce Terrain talking about how great it is playing for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. Here's the final call last night. Can I say something else? Why wasn't that game on regular Fox?
I don't know.
Why in the world was that game on FS1?
Because the Masked Singer is so important to Fox.
No, it wasn't the Masked
that was
Singer.
That was Friday's game that they moved off of Fox for the Masked Singer. That's what it was.
I could not believe that. I was like, what?
Their regular program is more important, Sparky.
No, I think there was sports on. Go look on the guide and see if I'm right. I think there was some sports on. I think that's why I got bumped. Anyways, regardless, here it is. Highlight courtesy of FS1.
To Perdomo. Here it is. The championship. The United States takes down the powerhouse that is the Dominican Republic. 2-1 the final score.
All right, what do you got, Charlie?
It doesn't let me go that far back.
Of course
on our
not.
TV.
That's fine. Whatever.
I'll look it up online.
It doesn't matter. So that highlight courtesy of FS1. So Perdomo was up. They referenced him being like a frog earlier in the game. So now every time I see Perdomo, I'm going to think of a frog because how, he got cold-blooded, ice in the veins, Mr. Clutch, yada, yada, yada. So was that pitch low? Yes. Was that pitch a strike? No. Did they call it a strike? Yes. That simple. This is the problem that I have an issue with. And the question is this: are people making too much of that one call in the game? Nicolay Law talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. On the socials at WI Sports Radio, streaming live on X and on YouTube. You can check all of that out. This is where my issue becomes. So from the beginning of that game to the end of that game, I watched it. And I even convinced my 10-year-old to sit on the other couch and watch it with me. And we both watched the entire baseball game, which was very enjoying. And it was a lot of fun. And I was screaming and yelling, and I was getting yelled at by Ms. K for potentially waking up the other side, our neighbors on the other side of the wall in our duplex that we live in. But I was jacked. I was into it. And if you follow me on X, you saw I was like posting and getting all excited. The home plate umpire was Corey Blazer. And somebody posted American hero. Corey Blazer was calling that low strike throughout all 9 innings. Both sides got the benefit of that low strike call all night. All night. U.S. batters got screwed by it, and the Dominican Republic batters got screwed by it. With all due respect to them being mad that they got screwed on that pitch, y'all should have known better. It never, ever should have happened. It never, ever should have gotten to that point. Perdomo knew. It wasn't like that was Perdomo's first at bat of the night. He'd been sitting on the bench not paying attention and then got up there and said, what the hell was that? That's not what was going on. He was dealing with this home plate umpire for 4 at-bats. He knew exactly what the strike zone was at that point. And again, the ABS was involved. What if the ABS was involved? Number one, you don't know if they would have had any challenges left. Number one. And number two, the entire game would have been different. Potentially. Because that low strike he was calling all night and was wrong all night, he was consistent with it for the most part. Once in a while, he'd get it right, but for the most part, he was giving it to the pitchers, regardless of who was on the mound. It wasn't even superstar treatment, like, I'm going to give it to Skeens, but Bednar's not going to give it. That wasn't, I'm not going to give it to Whitlock. That's not what was happening. Everybody got to feast on the low strike if you were a pitcher in this game last night. So to me, I think it's a complete overreaction, more than likely from people that didn't watch the entire game. Because if you watch the entire game, you should have known that was going to be the call at the end.
No sport is ever, in my mind, one call. It's a majority of calls. And if you look over at the YouTube dugout chat at WI Sports Radio, if you want to join that, Anton says, it was an amazing game, but the final call should not have been the deal breaker. Dominican Republic had 3 other chances to try and take the lead, and the USA just shut them down. Was it a strike? Yes, in my opinion. But at the same time, what he references before is that they had other opportunities to do it, so they didn't do it.
Bottom of the fourth, Dominican Republic had 2 outs with the bases loaded. Didn't score. That was a 2-1 game at that point. Still 2-1. Bottom of the fifth, they had runners on first and second with 1 out. Didn't take advantage. Bottom of the seventh, 1 out. They had runners on second and third. Down to 1. Could not get a run in. Bottom of the ninth, runner on second with 1 out and couldn't get that run in either. That's how you lose baseball games. Plain and simple. And everybody can be critical of the Brewers and how their style of play doesn't work in the playoffs and so forth. And you know what? Until they get that power element, I probably tend to lean that way at the end of the day. But 1 out, second and third, and it's Murphy, somebody's hitting a fly ball. I mean, somebody is going to do something to try and get that run in and tie this game. One of going to run a squeeze play. It's going to do something. Going to try and manufacture that run. The problem is that when you have all these superstars, who's going to drop down the squeeze button? Ain't nobody dropping down no damn squeeze button. So now you're talking about hitting the ball to the right side of the infield to get the run in, hitting the sacrifice fly to the outfield to get the run in, and you simply could not get that big hit for the Dominican Republic to get this thing back to even, and then to see what was going to happen. Did you see when Paul Skeens left? Paul Skeens left, and that Dominican Republic crowd was like, hell yes, see ya, bye-bye, thanks for coming, now we're going to score some runs. I'm being honest, I thought they were going to score some runs too. I was scared to death of that bullpen for them. Scared to death. You realize Bednar was down in AAA at one point last year, and he's out here pitching in a gigantic game for USA, and that dude pitches with emotion. That dude was getting jacked on the mound last night.
But David Bednar is also coming off 2 straight All-Star appearances before last season.
Sure.
Like, he has that talent in him, and a lot of these guys in that USA bullpen do. So the fact that they all were clicking just at the same time last night, yes, was a blessing to the USA, but also was just those guys are good players. We talk about it all the time that, yes, it's frustrating that they didn't bring in more starters to this team to be out of the bullpen, but these are real MLB relievers that are playing for Team USA that are good at their job. So you can't always be that excited when Paul Skeens comes out because these guys know how to do their job too.
This is the other part about this. You now are in a situation as Team USA to have a day off today, and then you come back and you play tomorrow. Now, the thought was when we left here on Friday was that Joe Ryan of the Twins was going to be that guy. It's not. It's not. It's the Mets pitcher again.
Nolan McLean.
Again, didn't go well for him the last time. Now, we'll see how it goes for him this time. If you remember watching him last year in the regular season, at the end of the year, that dude was nasty. Just killing guys. He was really, really good, and he did not look good this last outing. So this here, to me, is a heck of a gamble to put McLean out there to do this at this point. But don't they have the option to make roster changes now because we're on to the next round?
They do.
So why wouldn't you just replace a couple of these bullpen guys with a couple of starters? Go get 2 starters and be like, you're each pitching 3 innings to get us to the back half of this game. There have got to be guys that you can go grab out of spring training versus putting this dude back in the pressure cooker again with the potential of blowing this thing.
Yeah, but are there? You went and tried to get Joe Ryan and the Twins and him decided that it was better for him to stay at camp. Don't you think a lot of these other teams, as you get this close to the regular season, are saying we'd rather have our guys in camp, especially the big name guys?
Does it have to be a big name guy?
I mean,
like if they went to Mizorowski,
the Brewers would say no because they might have to start him opening day.
I don't know. Brewers, I don't think I agree with you on that at all. I mean, they could have a conversation, but I'm telling you right now, if Miz wants to go play, they're going to let him go play. They're not going to stop him from going to play. You're not going to stop anybody from going to play if they want to. I don't think Joe Ryan really cared one way or the other. He's like, I'm going to go play. All right, I'm going to go play. It's not a big deal to me, right? But you're telling me Jacob Mizorowski with a spotlight on him after he gets to go play in the All-Star game before ain't going to be jacked to go play for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic? Mizorowski be like, what time is my plane leave? Let me get there now and go play. It's like, to me, that makes a little bit more sense. You want to start this McLean kid? Fine. Bring me Mizorowski for the 3 innings right after this guy is done. Go with youth. And then hopefully you get 3 innings out of Mizorowski behind McLean. Now you're through 6. And then let Bednar and whoever else comes back in to finish this thing.
If I'm the Brewers, though, and I talked about this when the World Baseball Classic started, it's kind of scary seeing these players go from 0 to 100 that quickly with that much emotion, and that can lead to injuries.
And the season starts next week.
Exactly. And Jacob Mizorowski hasn't really had a whole lot of spring training experience up to this point this season. He's had a couple of appearances, but they've played it pretty safe with him because of the way the rest of the pitchers or the rotation has played out so far.
Right.
I think you want to keep him as safe as possible, and putting a guy into a game who has that much emotion, who last time he had that much emotion twisted his ankle somehow on the mound, and that ended up being an issue in and of itself. You don't want that type of thing to happen again, especially, again, if you're relying on him to be that opening day starter potentially.
I want to see it. I know I'm not going to get to see it.
Wait till the next time around.
I know I'm not going to get to see it.
Around.
Oh, he better be on it the next time around. Yes, he better be, and he is going to be electric when he is there. You see Chase Burns? Now, that's another guy that came up when Mizorowski came up last year, and they can't figure Burns out. He's a star in AAA. I'm going to be in the Major League rotation for the Reds this year.
Well, and Chase Burns is a guy that a lot of people are expecting to have that Jacob Mizorowski type impact
Correct.
Immediately when he hits that Cincinnati Reds rotation. And now with Hunter Green and that type of injury concerns that you're having with him, you need that. So the Brewers, again, got lucky that Jacob Mizorowski was that good coming up as quickly as he did.
Tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day. Come enjoy a day of fun at Moe's Irish Pub on Highway 100 in Tosa. Got some Irish dancers performing in the 1 o'clock hour. And then Wisconsin Sports Daily with yours truly, Steve Sparky Fifer, broadcasting live tomorrow afternoon from 2 to 5. Again, Moe's Irish Pub, Highway 100 in Wauwatosa, right here on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Looking forward to that and seeing just how crazy things are going to get over at Moe's Irish Pub. I mean, that is a thing, right? Like, you don't just go to a normal bar on St. Patrick's Day. You go to a bar that has that flavor with it.
Has the Reubens, has all the potatoes you could eat on earth and all the Guinness you could want to drink, everything. It's the place to go.
It's the place. Right. Yeah. So Moe's Irish Pub tomorrow, 2 to 5. We'll be out there. Looking forward to doing that show. Up next, things that we missed on today's show. Straight ahead. Welcome in, Wisconsin Sports Daily. Steve Sparky, Fiver, Charlie Usen over there. Don't forget, Potawatomi Sportsbooks with me where you want to be for all of your favorite college basketball games coming up tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever the case may be. That's where you're going to want to be hanging out watching the games. Now, you got a 2,000 square foot center screen, up to 30 sporting events at one time. You have a full Potawatomi Sportsbook kitchen menu, all kinds of your favorite foods right there on the menu. Homemade desserts and pastries each and every day at the Potawatomi Casino Hotel. You have all-day brunch. You have 48 beers on tap, a dozen different specialty cocktails, 2 levels of seating with all kinds of different options as far as seating choices go. Always recommend reserving your seat ahead of time at Potawatomi.com. There's a nominal fee goes towards your food and beverage costs, so there is that to consider. Obviously, you have to be 21 to enter the casino. Again, go to Potawatomi.com. And then also, to go along with that, coming up on Thursday, come hang out with us as we will be at the Annex at the Potawatomi Casino Hotel. John Kuhn will be there, Rami Makloff, Mitch Thundernellis, myself. We'll be broadcasting our shows from 9 until 5 o'clock. All 3 shows broadcasting live from the Annex at the Potawatomi Casino Hotel. Potawatomi, bet above the rest. And it'll be a fun time. Looking forward to Thursday hanging out at the Annex at the Potawatomi Casino Hotel. Now it's this time.
What story did Sparky miss talking about today on Wisconsin Sports Daily? Don't you worry. Sparky's got you covered now. Don't miss Milwaukee Admirals hockey this season. Don't just buy tickets. Invest in memories at MilwaukeeAdmirals.com.
Okay, here we go. Last segment before we get to Hot Stove Weekly at the top of the hour. 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock tonight with the franchise Tim Allen and Tommy Wirtz. They, of course, will be your baseball duo coming up during the baseball season starting next week. Tommy Wirtz will have the leadoff show before Brewers games throughout the season. Tim and Tommy will have the Potawatomi Sportsbook post-game show throughout the season as well after games. So lots and lots of great Brewers coverage here on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. All right, so things that we missed today. I don't know if you saw it, but there is a video, I guess that you could say has kind of gone viral of this 3-year-old kid throwing a ball pretty hard. I mean, I'd say it's pretty hard at least, right? Would you say?
Yeah, and he's doing it from a pretty good distance too.
Yeah.
Like the dad has to throw his hand up because he's throwing it a little too high, but he's 3 years old, so that's all right. We can survive with that,
right?
But he's getting it there every single time. This kid's gonna be a stud. Also, like, do you get worried about like injuries for kids when you're doing it like this young,
No.
like at all?
No, not at 3. No, these
Or, like-
kids could throw their arms forever at 3. I mean, I don't, no, not at all. So the end of the story is that kid apparently, according to the social media post, is going to be throwing out an opening pitch at a Brewers game at some point this season. I really, really hope they promote the heck out of that. I really hope they promote the heck out of it.
Get
I
just
hope
a bunch of other 3-year-olds in the stadium to all cheer him on doing that.
no, not
That would be
going
fun
way
to you.
over the top. No. I'm just saying, promote it on the broadcast. Show the video of him pitching at home and be like, hey, if you're coming to the game tomorrow, make sure to get to the game early. He's throwing out the first pitch tomorrow. Like, I would blow it up, I guess is what I would say.
I think that's a smart decision. That's weird. Like, it's cool and weird that you're having a child this young go out there and do this. But if he can get it from whatever mound they make for him, because I'm assuming he's not throwing from the major league mound. If he could make it from the major league mound, do you think a team would just like give him a contract?
No.
Like, get him those. Well, they do that with the 15-year-olds or the
That's
13-year-olds.
international. You can't do that in the States.
Tell him to move somewhere else. Move to Canada. You'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
if he was somewhere else. We mentioned this earlier in the 3 o'clock hour, but worth mentioning again if you didn't hear it. The Brewers are offering fans an exclusive first look at Uke, a new documentary celebrating the extraordinary life and legacy of Bob Uecker, with a special post-game preview coming up on opening day, March 26th. Immediately following the conclusion of the game, fans are encouraged to remain in their seats for the debut of a 20-minute segment from the film, marking the first ever public showing of the documentary that has been more than 2 years in the making. The movie chronicles the incredible life of the immortal and beloved Bob Uecker, spanning his lifetime, including rare content and interviews with Uke's family and loved ones from his baseball and entertainment life. Produced by September Club, Uke will enjoy a major theatrical release later this summer with more details to be announced. That is going to be another one that everybody is going to have to go outside and see. Just a bit outside, which was very, very well done about the 82 team, was awesome. Everybody's going to have to go see this one.
Well, and I'm going to assume this is going to be emotional. This is going to be hilarious. Like, you're going to feel the whole roller coaster of emotion throughout this entire documentary. Yeah. I'm a guy who's not afraid to cry at movies. I'm sure I'm going to cry at this one when I see this one. I know you're too cool to cry. You're too manly to cry over there, Sparky. Yeah, whatever. I'm not afraid to admit it.
I don't know, man. Like, to me, yeah, I haven't cried in a while. I haven't. There's a story up that just went up a little while ago at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, and I'm amazed that they turned this into a story. I mean, I guess you have fine content. But did you see that the Packers on social media thanked Nate Hobbs when they released him?
That, and then people were.
Did you see David Bakhtiari? Kind of like went off like, thank you for what? Like, right. What did he do? That whole thing. That was a whole big conversation piece, and the Journal-Sentinel just posted a story to their website about it. So should every player that you release get a thank you? Should it only be players that make X amount of money get a thank you? Because he didn't do anything.
No. Well, and
but it's being polite. Don't you raise your kids to be polite?
He didn't do anything. I know Zane Anderson was on this team and played important minutes 2 years ago.
Special teams for sure.
Special teams, but he
Nothing.
got a post.
Did he get a post?
He did get one.
Oh, I didn't.
But it didn't get the same kind of like push as some of these other players. Like, I don't even know if Zane Anderson deserved a post. If I'm going to be completely honest, yeah, he was important to the special teams. Again, played minutes at safety 2 seasons ago. But I think there definitely has to be some kind of threshold for what deserves a post. I don't know if it should be monetary. I think that's a little unfair because, like, a guy like Nate Hobbs made money.
Right.
Aaron Banks is going to make money. And if he gets a goodbye post, which he probably will whenever he leaves the Packers, people are going to clown that too. It should be like, what did you do for me lately? Were you on the field this past season? Were you important to the team this past season? And if that's the case, then a player like Nate Hobbs, yeah, go ahead, give him one. But otherwise, like, it has to have some kind of criteria to it.
Criteria is correct. So in my opinion, it should be somewhere like 3 to 5 years. That's the first criteria. The second criteria is you have to have been starting during that 3 to 5 years.
Okay, but what if it's...
Hold on. There is an exception to the rule. I will call it the Sabathia exception, right? So if you get traded mid-season on the last year of your contract and you help the team break a 26-year playoff drought because you're immortal, by all means, they throw them a parade. But outside of that, where it's like some monumental feat, like if they traded for somebody mid-season and then the Packers went and won a Super Bowl and the guy's like the next Desmond Howard is a kick returner and that's why they got there because of how he changed everything on special teams, sure, I'm with you.
That's I was going to bring up Kawhi Leonard. Be like, well, Kawhi Leonard probably deserves a goodbye post from Toronto.
Yes,
when he left
because
Toronto
they won a championship.
Okay,
right.
All right.
But the Packers didn't win jack.
No, nothing.
They didn't win anything.
Actually, they were probably worse when he was on the field overall. They just completely lost it in those last 5 games, and he was on the field for those games.
Absolutely crazy. Another thing we had talked about today, that is a thing, this performance-based pay in the NFL. So at the end of the season, they award checks to players that the NFL feels was undercompensated from the contract that they were playing on. Nashawn Wright was the highest paid earner at $1.44 million from the Chicago Bears. Now, the NFL paid him, not the Bears. The NFL paid him $1.44 million. Of the top 25, all to receive at least $1 million, the only Packer on that list at 25 was Evan Williams, who just got over $1 million from the NFL because they outperformed their contract by that much.
Well, and Evan Williams, I felt like deserved that. I think he had a season last year that was pretty underrated for a lot of people. And I think just guys weren't watching him enough. There's points where he was the impact player on that defense for that team, especially when Micah Parsons wasn't on the field. He deserves that. I kind of felt like Sean Ryan maybe deserved a little bit more love, especially since rotating from that guard to the center position, being such a vital part of that, earning the contract that he did this offseason. Maybe that's why they didn't give him that, because he got his money eventually through that extension.
No, it's only based on the season. So, it has nothing to do with free agency because Nashawn Wright left the Bears.
That's true. But he didn't really get paid when he left either. That's the other thing. Like his contract or his new contract with the Jets isn't really all that much. It's probably pretty equivalent to what he was getting with the Bears.
No, you're right about that. I think it does come down to essentially only what happens in the season. And that's all that really matters at the end of the day for for how the NFL looks at it. Okay, so did you fill out a bracket yet, Charlie?
I have not yet. I was waiting to talk through the show today, hear what the experts were going to say about guys. And I think I feel a little bit more confident. I think I'm choosing Wisconsin for sure in my bracket. High Point, I'm not believing in that. I think the Badgers' pace of play is going to match those, again, smaller teams. That should help them get through a little bit of a run here. That's the first thing I know for sure I'm taking.
Yeah, I'm scared of Arkansas, if we're being honest. I am. I'm a little bit nervous about Arkansas. We had John Steppe on earlier, Badgers beat writer for the Journal-Sentinel. He took them into the Sweet 16. We had Kevin Connolly on in the first hour from Fox 8, WGHP, who covers High Point, sports anchor right there by High Point, by the campus. By the way, you Google High Point University. Awesome. It looks pretty cool, doesn't it?
I like the purple roofs on the buildings that they have. It feels like royal. It's cool.
It looks pretty cool. Right there in North Carolina. So we had him on talking about High Point and what they can do. A lot of international dudes on that team. He said that pretty much the transfer portal is why High Point has been so good the last couple of years. 30 wins. You don't suck. You get 30 wins. I don't care what conference you're in. 30 wins is a lot of winning basketball without having a lot of slip-ups against inferior competition. If nothing else, you can't argue that they're inconsistent. Clearly, they've been consistently winning throughout the year. And as we talked about earlier with Kevin Conley, when you look at this game coming up at Thursday, it's simple. You have to hit your threes, and you have to limit their threes being made. And hopefully Nolan Winter is back and Austin Rapp is doing their thing. And then just take care of the boards. You don't have to kill them on the boards by 10, but just make sure it's at least even. They're not a gigantic team. Their big guys don't play all that much. They're like 6'10" guy, barely plays at all. And I know they're playing 9 guys in the rotation, I believe he said. But without anybody of size, Nolan Winter should dominate depending on how long he's playing.
Well, and frankly, I think the Badgers have 7 guys in their rotation that are all effective players that can help out that team. So, yeah, the other team has 9 guys that they're rotating through that can all be effective. I think the Badgers have the same kind of talent on their team.
Coming up next, Hot Stove Weekly, the franchise. Tim Allen and Tommy Wirtz take you from 5 until 7 o'clock. Don't forget, tomorrow, St. Patrick's Day, come enjoy a day of fun at Mo's Irish Pub. Highway 100 in Tosa. Irish dancers in the 1 o'clock hour. Wisconsin Sports Daily with yours truly broadcasting live tomorrow afternoon from 2 to 5. Again, Mo's Irish Pub, Highway 100 in Tosa. Come hang out with us as part of the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Coming up, Jack Stern from Brewer Fanatic will join the guys coming up at 6 o'clock. He's always fun radio to listen to. Don't go anywhere. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Enjoy your night, Wisconsin. Have a good one. Toodles.